A legacy of glory. Every driver is striving to achieve this goal. When their endeavor is challenged, these men will instinctively rise to defend it. Whether it is a young star still drafting the first chapter of his story,
I don't know what his deal is with me, but he's apparently stupid.
or an old champ looking to add to his.
For anybody that's looking for drama for the next couple races, start looking, because I can promise you I'm going to start making the highlight reel in the next couple weeks.
At Michigan International Speedway, legacy will be on the line at a track that refuses to forgive those distracted by emotion and rewards a calculating mind that will take a chance. Roaring speeds will be reached, but fuel conservation must be considered, subjecting them to a daring game of racing roulette.
Jimmy Johnson is out of fuel. Biff will lead. This is the last lap. He looks to be slow. He looks up smart. Oh, no! Mark Martin takes the checkered flag of Michigan.
NASCAR's TNT Summer Series continues.
Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway, NASCAR on TNT. This is a track that most drivers have at the top of their list. Our expert crew chief, Larry McReynolds, certainly has had a lot of experience here. Larry, you almost got a speeding ticket running down to your cutaway car there. What are your averages today, my friend?
Well, Lindsay, when you think about a 400-mile race that we maybe won't have a lot of cautions, you have to look at the trends of the patterns. And what I've done, I've looked back to the last 9 races here at Michigan in June. The first caution average lap 32. Last year it was lap 74 before that first caution. Number of cautions, average 6. The longest green flag run, average 75 laps. We'll have some green flag stops, I can promise you. And the last caution flag, average lap 172. That's 28 laps to go, Lindsay.
Weather does not look like it's going to be a factor today. So far, we are lucky. The drivers getting ready to fire up their engines. They're getting the final conversations in with their crew members, deciding what strategy. Now to the command.
Welcome back. The stars of the new movie Grown Ups in theaters June 25th. Here's Adam Sandler and Kevin James.
Thank you.
This one. Come on,
this is for the troops overseas. Gentlemen, stop!
I'm just going to say, I think that might be the best command I've ever seen. Kevin James and Adam Sandler doing it their own way. They said it'd be great. That sure was. When we come back to NASCAR on TNT, it's time to go racing.
80 miles west of Detroit in Brooklyn sits Michigan International Speedway. NASCAR teams have been racing here since 1969. Today, this 2-mile oval plays host to round 15 on the 2010 NASCAR schedule. We're ready for NASCAR racing on TNT this afternoon. Sprint Cup Series action presented by Captain Morgan. Hello and welcome again, everyone. Good to have you with us for NASCAR on TNT. With Kyle Petty and Wally Dallenbach, I'm Adam Alexander. And Wally, I know when you were a driver coming to Michigan, one of your favorite stops on the circuit, many of these drivers would agree. So what is it about this place that all you guys seem to like so much?
Well, there's so much racing room here. That's the biggest thing. And it takes a lot of horsepower. It takes a good car to get around this place. But there's so much room to race. And the driver makes up for a little bit, because if your car's not working right, there's lots of grooves to choose from. You start searching the racetrack and you find a place where your race car will work. And you get 3 wide, 4 wide here, and it's a lot of fun. One thing about it, Kyle, is though, even if you have a really, really good race car, pit strategy comes in really, really big here.
Yeah, pit strategy is all-inclusive here. This is one of those places that you start talking about fuel mileage on Monday after the Pocono race, because you're coming here. So pit strategy is crucial. I mean, you got to know when to get in, when to get out. You've got to make good time, and you've got to be with the draft. And that's an important thing today that's going to come up with the spoiler. They're going to draft down these straightaways.
One of the other storylines we'll talk about today, undoubtedly, Ford and their success here over the years. And it is a Ford that is out front right now. Ford will soon attempt to complete 1,000 laps in the new 2011 Mustang V6 on one tank of fuel, all part of Mustang's 1,000 lap challenge. Go to Mustang1000lapchallenge.com for your chance to win a 2011 V6 Mustang. What a great looking car. And now we take a look at today's starting grid. For the second time in 2010, it will be Kurt Busch who leads him to the green flag. Jamie McMurray joining him on the front row. Jimmy Johnson has never won here at Michigan. Casey Kane won in '06. Row 3, Jeff Burton looking for his first Michigan win, a two-time Michigan winner in Jeff Gordon. You see Ryan Newman and Denny Hamlin in row 4, and it really doesn't matter where your favorite driver starts because you can go back deep in the field and have a chance to win here at Michigan. In fact, a year ago, Mark Martin started in the 32nd position, drove all the way to the front, and eventually spent the end of his day celebrating in victory lane. Carl Edwards has won here twice. He starts in the 19th position this afternoon. Wally, I think you're going to dial up driver 99.
Carl Edwards, this is Wally up in the booth. Got a copy?
Gotcha, Wally. How's it going?
It's going good, man. Hey, you've been to victory lane here twice, and everybody's talking about the Fords possibly making the turn. This has been a great track for Fords in the past. You've got something for them today?
I hope so. I hope so. I'm pretty excited about coming here and representing Ford. You know, they've been doing a great job on the road. We just got to get them to win. So, you know, just this Aflac Fusion was good in practice, and hopefully we can come through for them. And you know, I learned something about you. I didn't realize your wife ran here in 1982. That's pretty cool, man.
If what you're getting at, Carl, is my wife wears the uniform in the family, yes, this is true.
I did not say that, but yeah, I'm glad my wife doesn't want to come race. I'd hate to have to compete with her at that. But hi, Kate, I love you.
Well, good luck, man. How was your car in the long runs? Because it seemed like your car was one of those cars that was really consistent on the long runs.
Seems pretty good. There were a couple cars that were really fast. You know, the 9 car was one of them, and since we could go look at his notes, that'll help us a little bit. But we had that speed right out of the gate, so hopefully it holds on for a long run because I think, you know, like normal, that's what's going to win the race here.
Well, good luck, Carl. Try to break that streak and get that Ford in victory lane maybe today.
All right, thanks a lot, Wally. Have a good one.
Carl Edwards made his career debut here back in 2004, and now we check out the built Ford Tough driving force. Carl Edwards, a multi-time winner here at Michigan. And as we mentioned, he also began his career here a number of years ago. One last trip down pit lane before we go green. Gentlemen?
Multiple lanes, and Wally was talking about a little while ago the reasons why Jeff Gordon loves this racetrack, considers it his favorite. Of course, he's won here twice. That'll put you in a good mood too. He told me just moments ago this track and his car seem to be working together really well this weekend. He's hoping to improve on those 2 second-place finishes he had here a year ago in the 2 races here in Michigan. Phil?
You know, Ralph, it's been feast or famine this year for Jamie McMurray. Started out with that huge win at Daytona. He's had 3 other runner-up finishes, but only 1 other finish in the top 10. Kevin Bono Mannion says in order for us to get those top 5s consistently, we're going to have to keep up with the racetrack today. He said the sun's going in and out. He said we're going to have to keep up with that. And oh, by the way, we need to take a look at our fuel mileage. And by virtue of his second-place qualifying run, he has one of only 6 cars with openings on pit road. So that may help him on caution flag pit stops, Marty.
Phil, it's been talked about how Jimmy Johnson lost both races here last year on fuel mileage. I asked Chad Canals, do you start playing the fuel mileage game from the beginning? He said, my job is to make a race car fast. He and Johnson have done that this weekend. Everybody in the garage area says Jimmy Johnson, the man to beat today, Matt.
Marty, the big question mark for Juan Pablo Montoya. What happened to the speed in his race car from Friday's practice to Saturday's? Completely different change and setup on this 42 machine. The good thing, he finished top 10 here a year ago. And Larry Mack, this is one of those racetracks where Juan Pablo Montoya should fit right in, because you can run the Richard Petty, David Pearson line all day. That very high line up against the fence.
Yeah, Matt, lots of options here when you get into this race. But, you know, throughout the countdown to the green in the pre-race, a lot of talk about the Ford teams. And they have put all the bullets in the gun here. And you know what? Those guys were fast in practice. When I look at one Ford team out there, the drivers won here twice, the crew chiefs won here a couple of times, but Marty Snyder, they're going to have to put their work gloves on. They're starting 39th.
That is a long way to the front. So, Todd Parrott, how do you get that car from 39th to the win?
Hopefully we got a good fast race car and you know, make some calls here in the pits and get us some track position. These guys had good pit stops all year long, and Matt's done a great job driving his tail off, so hopefully that's what gets us up there at the end of the day.
Todd Parrott told me earlier today, if I'm in the top 10 and halfway, I'm a happy guy. Adam?
No doubt about it. He understands the numbers, Marty. So with that, we go to our Burger King race analysis. 400 miles here this afternoon, comprised of 200 laps around this 2-mile oval. You see the pit window, 42 to 46 laps, and once again, pit road speed very important because of the possibility of green flag pit stops, 55 miles per hour there, and to the rear, the 34 of Kevin Conway. Kyle Busch changed an engine on Friday, and the 33 of Clint Bowyer in a backup car after crashing in practice yesterday afternoon.
I don't think he really liked that first car too much. Yeah, I don't think he was too upset that he got it in the wall. And it's, you know, this is going to be new to him, but I don't think it's critical.
Bowyer got no practice time with that backup car. A number of drivers deep in the field to start today's race that we will keep our eye on. But as we get the green flag, we focus on the front. Kurt Busch, the pole winner in a Dodge. Jamie McMurray outside in a Chevrolet. Fans on their feet as we get ready to go racing for the 15th time in 2010. We're glad you're with us for NASCAR on TNT. We are green at Michigan.
That's about the prettiest starts I've seen in a long time.
Junior jumped out of line right there at the very end, but other than that, these guys just stayed in line.
Oh, man, he's a little bit loose there. Jamie McMurray on the high side. Got the car a little bit sideways, but hung on to it, and he's leading.
The aggression pays off for Jamie McMurray. Another front row start for him here in 2010. Looked good coming down the back straightaway, but Kurt Busch, the pole sitter, rallying back on the inside. McMurray all clear off 4. He will lead lap 1. They are 3 deep back near the 10th position. That's David Rudiman on the inside of Jeff Burton for position. And just in front of them, Hamlin, Reagan, and Biffle making it 3 wide. And there goes Kurt Busch, new leader off of 2. Montoya and Gordon working together, and their teammates from Joe Gibbs Racing battling for position. Hamlin around Logano. He goes after Gordon.
You really see that, you know, what Kyle was talking about at the opening, the draft really comes into play here again. Now with these spoilers, you'll see these cars line up 5, 6, 7 cars, and if there's one car down on the bottom, they lose a lot of ground. As soon as they get to turn 1, you'll see it fan out 3 wide, but they really try to get down the straightaway and the backstretch nose to tail, because the draft is important here.
Yeah, we didn't have that issue, or it kind of went away. The draft kind of went away. Some of it did when we went to the wing, because the wing was more efficient for downforce, but it created less drag behind the car and less drag on the car, less of an opening behind the car. With this spoiler, everybody's talked about gear rules. We talked about it last week at Pocono on the TNT race, you know, about the gear rules and the ratios. This spoiler changes a lot of things. It's like a ripple effect across gears and engine combinations and the way you drive.
McMurray led lap 1. He's running 4th with 3 laps behind us. Casey Kane went around for 2nd. You saw Jimmy Johnson get by for 3rd. McMurray could lose another position. Ryan Newman in line to take a spot, and here we are side by side for a spot in the running order. Jeff Burton to the inside of David Rudiman as you ride on board with Greg Biffle.
Yeah, you see Biffle's up on
back here, Russ.
Biffle up on the high side. A lap earlier, he was down right on the white line going through 3 and 4. So he's searching for that grip. That, you know, his car is working a certain way right now, and he's trying to find a place in the corner where his car feels the best.
How much of the early part of this race, Kyle, is experimenting with your car and figuring which lane it likes on track?
The first few laps of the race at Michigan is trying to get in your place where you want to run. And it's not really experiment. You know where your car, you just want to get clear of these cars. You see these cars running 2 wide, you see them fanning out 3 wide. As you see this happening, the first, second, third place cars are checking out from these guys a little bit. So what you really want to do is find the place that your car is comfortable, work it in, and as you saw that shot down the front stretch, everybody was in line. You see Carl down on the inside. He's looking for fresh air. These guys are just drafting by him.
And how about Martin Truex Jr. driving right up the middle between Roush Fenway teammates David Reagan and Carl Edwards. That's the battle for the 13th position.
And boy, I think Carl lost about 3 spots right there just going down the straightaway because he was not up high in line. And he's still stuck down there.
Kurt Busch continues to lead. Last time around, we completed 5 laps. His advantage over second place Casey Kane, 0.3 of a second.
And as we follow this, notice the 56 car of Truex. He goes in the middle of 1 and 2 and goes all the way to the wall at 3 and 4. That's what's special about Michigan. You can run all over the racetrack.
Jeff Gordon, the power move on the outside, slides in front of Newman. And there you see it as they get into the corner. Newman to the bottom side. Gordon jumps up front, and now a battle for the race lead. Kane trying to go around Kurt Busch, could not make it happen off of turn 2.
I'll tell you, did you see Newman crank the wheel on that thing going into 1? I mean, he turned that thing hard left. Your car's got to be working pretty good in order to be able to do that.
You got to be confident that it's going to be there when you turn it. And I think that's the big deal. Is, you know, these guys, it's all about momentum, so they kind of don't put a lot of wheel in the car. When you feel confident enough that you can just crank it to the left and get back to the gas, that was impressive.
Let's hear from Phil Parsons.
Jamie McMurray reported that his car is really loose to start with. Started out that way, has not reported that his car's changed. You know, guys, we talk about running up high. I was talking to Alan Gustafson, crew chief for Mark Martin. He said, we know that you can go up high. Right now, probably with no rubber down, it probably may be as much as a half a second faster. But that's going to rubber up there, so we're going to have to be able to run the bottom of the racetrack. So that's what a lot of guys are talking about doing, is making sure their car will work on the bottom. They know they can go up high right now, but maybe not later.
Quite a battle here from 5th on back. That's Hamlin in the 5th position. Side by side for 6th. Montoya below McMurray, and Jeff Gordon knocking on the door.
And going back to what Phil said, you know, there's a lot of truth in that. But here at Michigan, normally your car gets tight. It gets to the point where you can't turn the steering wheel, and the car is going to slide up the racetrack whether you like it or not.
Yeah, whether you know, when you go back and they mentioned the King and Pearson and Earnhardt, you mentioned the old drivers, they pretty much stuck to a groove, and then as the race would go, they would work in a new groove. These guys that race today instantly run all over the racetrack. So if your car is working on the bottom and you like it there, you'll run on the bottom. If you have to go to another place, that place is just as wore out as the bottom was. So it kind of changes all these guys in the way it is, the way they drive a racetrack.
Draft, not something we talk about a lot when we come to Michigan because of all the other elements in this race. But you saw David Rudeman a moment ago settled right up underneath the rear bumper of Jeff Burton. Draft does play a role here, doesn't it, Wally?
Yeah, no, it certainly does. And you can see the one car is having a hard time. He's awfully loose, and he went in way high that time, mainly because he was saving the race car. But yeah, draft is pretty important at this racetrack, and we'll see it all day.
Hamlin goes to the inside of Ryan Newman for 4th. There is Kurt Busch leading Casey Kane at Michigan.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from Michigan, presented by Captain Morgan on TNT, is brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. By Progressive, making it easier to buy car insurance. By Burger King, who reminds you to have it your way. And by Toyota.
NASCAR on TNT rolling through the Irish hills of Michigan. Kurt Busch has opened up a 0.7 of a second advantage over second place Casey Kane, and we want you to be a millionaire. Fans have a chance to win up to $1 million by going to NASCAR.com/TNT Million, and all you have to do is pick the top 10 finishers in today's race or any race over the course of the next 5 weeks. You pick the top 10 finishers in order, you could win up to $1 million. It's the TNT $1 Million Fan Challenge. And we can tell you someone will win $1,000 just by signing up. The race within the race. These 3 cars have been going at it for a while.
2 back. 1.
I think we've run 15 laps, and this position has changed almost all 15 laps.
Yep.
And it depends. You know, everybody's tried low, everybody's tried high, and the 11 car really is working pretty nice on the bottom. He dives in this corner. You see him go down the front stretch here, and as they get to the first corner, the 39 and the 24 are up, he goes down.
2 back.
That's on board with Newman.
1
He's
back.
in 5th, and right behind him, side by side for 6th. Outside is Gordon, inside is Hamlin.
The problem is when you're down there, Kyle, unless you can really roll through the center really, really good, you can't get off the corner and clear that guy.
Yeah, exactly. You see the 24 coming out. He's got a good run on the 38. He gets right there. Boom. Man, it's like it lost the nose when he got.
He got in back of that air.
So fast.
No air.
Yeah, he's closing so fast right there. Boom. The car just loses all its downforce, and he's so close to it. Doesn't seem to have hurt the car at this point in time, but you're exactly right, Wally. When you get to the corner and you dive to the bottom, it was a decent shot a minute ago where you saw, and right here, you see the 11 kind of gain a car length on him right in the middle because he goes to the gas. But right here, he loses too because the engine's just not pulling like the outside line is.
And that was a great shot, Wally, to illustrate the various lines that you can run here at Michigan. They were stacked in 3 different grooves when they entered the corner, and there goes Jeff Gordon,
yeah,
final to the inside.
But look at Jeff Gordon. That's a slide job right there.
Yep.
He had no intention of going to the bottom of the racetrack. He dove in, went to the middle, and let that car slide up. That's what you see Saturday night in the world of outlaws and all types of short track racing is that slide job.
Problems on the front straightaway brings out our first caution of the day. It's Marcus Ambrose sliding through the infield grass. You talk about a driver that was outstanding in 2009, that has fought every possible issue this season. You have it in driver 47. Ambrose gets our first caution of the day at lap 18.
18. And we have a winner in the booth.
Yes, we do. Let's see what happened. He was saving it and he got tagged. I mean, he actually had it saved, and that other car, I couldn't tell who that was, just came up and tagged him in the left rear. That's all it was.
Yeah, but it looked like he almost just the same as Jeff did. When he got up there, the car got a little bit pushy. It jumps out to the right, and as he checks up, there's nothing that the 78 can do.
On board with Stewart, you see Regan Smith in the 78 get up there and the contact.
Come on, get through. Still green.
The good news is not a great deal of damage suffered for the 47 of Marcus Ambrose after he hit the wall, so should be able to make some repairs and stay in the race.
Yeah, didn't see the right front, but I don't think there's any problem in the right front. But you want to make sure, and Larry mentioned it earlier in the pre-race, the front fenders and all that stuff in the front is really, really important here in Michigan. You know, you can bang up the rear, I think, a little bit and not lose so much. But as long as your front fenders are clear, that's what's really important.
That valence, those front fenders and that valence and those struts that hold that valence in place, and that was a really good shot from the camera guys. That was a really good shot that you could see that those struts didn't appear to be bent. When he went into the grass, he went in backwards, and the car spun around instead of going in and digging in like we see so many cars. And like we saw the 11 car at Charlotte earlier in the year, it just dug in and rolled it back under.
19 laps behind us here at Michigan, and the first opportunity this afternoon to come to pit road. Kurt Busch, the race leader, Casey Kane, Jimmy Johnson, Juan Montoya, Ryan Newman, the top 5. Pit road is open, and it's about to get busy. Kurt Busch going to lead them down. We begin with Ralph.
Adam, this is a good break for Casey Kane. The temperature on the number 9 Budweiser machine had climbed up to 260 degrees. They're going to go to work on that grill, clean it off really good. He was also a little tight, so you're going to take a half round of wedge out, Marty.
Jimmy Johnson, bottom of your screen, said the car was loose, especially into 1. He said it got worse the longer they ran. They're going to go down. About a round on the track bar. Chad Knaus making that call. Matt?
Pole sitter Kurt Busch is a car a little slow up top. That's why he's trying to run the bottom more. They're sticking to their game plan. There might be some 2-tire stops in this time, but they're going to go with 4. No adjustments, Phil.
Matt, Jamie McMurray was in. He said his car's a little bit loose in through the center and above the corner. Loose all the way through. Not crazy loose, just a little bit. So Kevin Bono Mannion took 1 pound of air out of the right rear.
Talk about pit strategy. Matt Yoakum mentioned it. We could see some drivers take 2 tires. Perhaps that's the reason Robbie Gordon and Tony Stewart were on the move. Kurt Busch is the leader. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy. Cleanup of caution number 1 behind us at Michigan, and we are set to go back green. Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch on the front row. Stewart took only 2 tires on that exchange of pit stops, and we are back under green.
Stewart spun the tires a little bit there on that restart. Didn't lose too much on the 2. Here's where the 2 gets a run. Yeah. Just like a freight train.
And the bad part, where you really feel bad, is being Tony Stewart on that inside. You know you went to the gas 3 car lengths quicker than he did. But that outside line and the momentum that's built up, it just carries you, man.
Yeah. Let's go to Marty for more on Tony Stewart.
Yeah, guys, just talked to Darian Grubb, and I said, why the call for 2 tires now? He said it's early, really didn't have much to lose, and Tony felt like if he could just get up front with these guys, he might be able to run with them. So they don't expect to obviously stay in the lead, but they can hang in the top 5, top 10, they'll be happy with that.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of truth to that, Marty. Obviously, we've been talking about it all year about how being out front is so important. It makes your car handle better. And if you're not stuck in the middle of traffic and you can get in the spot that Tony's in, it's like your car is a totally different race car because you've got more downforce on it to help it make it stick through the corners.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And that's what Tony and those guys did and Darian did last week to have a great finish when they were up there. I don't think Tony was happy with the way his car run, but he had a great finish because of it. Another thing, is 38 must have just jumped out of gas because they're freight training him for whatever reason. But another thing, you know, whether your car's loose, whether your car's tight, this is a good time to try 2 tires to say, okay, which direction did it send me? So late in the race, if it does come down to 1 can of fuel, you don't mind putting 2 tires on to correct your car because 1 can of gas is 2 tires no matter what.
We talked about experimenting with your line on track, a little experimenting in the pits in the early portion of this race as well. That's Stewart right there you see in your screen second. Montoya behind him. Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson have combined for 7 wins this year, and those 2 together on track racing for the 4th position. Look at this, 4 wide through 1 and 2.
And Jimmy just drives down in front across the front of the 11 car, which shows that the front of his car sticks really good. Even though he was behind the 20 or the 42 car, he had enough go that the front just stuck and he turned left.
Johnson did not qualify well last week at Pocono, but worked very hard throughout the afternoon to get to the front. Doing a nice job early today. He qualified good on Friday here at Michigan, and he's worked his way up to 3rd after he gets around Montoya there.
Yeah, I don't know if the 48 is loose, but he's driving it loose right now.
He is.
This is the 2nd time in 2 laps I've seen that car get sideways.
What's the word, Marty?
Yes, that would be loose, Mr. Dallenbach, if you cannot tell. And what Jimmy said in that first run, he said it actually got worse the longer they ran. But what he did is he went to the high line, and that helped him a little bit. He said when he went high, kind of took that looseness out of the race car, tightened it up a little bit for him just by where he was running on the racetrack. You drivers use that once in a while, don't you?
Well, yeah, and it's a little bit surprising, I guess, that it actually stayed loose because on this track, usually when you burn the fuel off and all that weight goes to the front, the car gets tight. So they must have been really, really loose at the start of this one.
Okay, everybody out there watching in TV land, remember what the 9 just did. He sucked up behind the 11 and the 42, jumped all the way to the inside and passed 2 cars. Not because he has 100 more horsepower, but because that spoiler is creating that gap and that hole. He got a good run up off 2, and that's the draft. That's the perfect example of what the draft does. The cars get too wide, and you're right behind them.
It was like a car driving by a bicycle on the back straightaway, just shot out of a cannon.
It's like actually if you're going down the freeway and you get behind a tractor trailer, and it's like that push of air, and then all of a sudden you break through that push of air, and there's like no air right there. And that's really what it feels like in these race cars.
These 2 fellows met at the beginning of today's race. Clint Boyer in the 33 Cheerios car, right behind him in that blue M&M's machine, Kyle Busch. Both started at the rear, and each have enjoyed a nice run through the field. You look at our biggest movers today, Boyer the headliner, he's up 22 positions. Kenseth doing a nice job after a poor qualifying run on Friday, and you saw Kyle Busch with an engine change here Friday morning, moving nicely through the field. Jimmy Johnson to the inside of Casey Kane, and Stewart, the other driver, to the outside he's going to try and get.
You know, the 48 is handling well, but also looks like it's handling well on the straightaways.
It is handling, when he goes to the gas, it's handling very well right now, it looks like. But you see Casey get a good run, go to the inside, and try to get back up in line. The whole deal is these guys can draft around each other, but if the hole's not there for him to jump up in, you'll see the 48 come right back on the outside. And just a few hundred yards ago, it looked like the 9 car had 100 more horsepower.
These 3 drivers, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. You're on board with Tony Stewart. He's the runner-up. And as they head into turn 3, Johnson again sweeping low underneath of Kane and Tony Stewart as well. Can he clear him off the corner? And look at Casey take advantage.
I'm going to tell you, this is good racing, and it's good racing because of the spoiler, because that's what's changed this part of the race up here compared to what the wing was. These guys could not do this before with the wing because it just didn't create the turbulence, and it just didn't create the air gaps in the holes. But this is Michigan right here. This is cool racing.
Last time around, it was Stewart 2nd, Kane 3rd, Johnson 4th. Now it's the other way around. All 3 of those drivers chasing Kurt Busch, who has opened up a 2.2-second lead here at Michigan. And now we take an inside look at what's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint and Evo 4G, America's first 4G phone. Kevin Harvick continues to lead the Sprint Cup Series points. He's 16 in front of Kyle Busch. The 18 just in front of him on track. And our fastest lap time today here at Michigan, 38.60 seconds around this 2-mile oval. For more NASCAR stats and live in-car audio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the new Evo only from Sprint at sprint.com/speed. And by the way, the quickest lap of the day turned by the man who has been out front throughout the afternoon, pole sitter Kurt Busch. His lead right now, 1.3 seconds over Casey Kane. We showed you Kevin Harvick on track. He's 25th in the running order. Let's get more on the point leader with Matt.
Adam and crew chief Gil Martin's biggest concern going into the race, being stuck deep in the field with long green flag runs, and that's come to fruition. Harvick, as you mentioned, only gaining 3 spots since the drop of the last green flag on the restart. His car this run, like the first run, starts out terribly tight. He loses so much time at the beginning of the run. It's hard to make up this distance on this 29 machine. They made an adjustment the last stop. They're going to have to take a bigger swing on their next visit to pit road.
Juan Pablo Montoya, another solid qualifying run. He is 5th on track. And Tony Stewart, who took those 2 tires when teams came down pit road at lap 20, has now slid back to the 6th position.
But he seems like he's kind of settled in. You know, you're obviously going to lose a little bit, especially on the guys with tires, but it's not like his car fell off a bunch. So this is something that they're banking on. They're thinking about going to this move possibly later on.
Later in the race. And that's 2 good positions or 2 good reports right there, because you see one from the 29 car. He's mired in traffic. He's stuck, whether he's got 4 tires, whether he's got 2 tires, but he can't make any progress. Tony started at the front, and so he lost 3 or 4 positions. Who cares? He's still at the front where they're not getting into lap traffic yet. They're not there, and he's in good air right now, where Harvick is trapped back there.
Talked on Countdown to Green about the fact the Fords had not won this season. Casey Kane, the highest in that category, 2nd. And there's Jimmy Johnson. He was the runner-up when we went to break a moment ago, but he slid back to the 4th position behind Denny Hamlin.
That car's still a little bit free right there, that 48 car. You see it right in the middle of the corner rotate, and it's like it catches him. And then once it lands, then he can go to the gas, and he's okay. But right in the middle, it just seems to bobble a little bit.
A few spots behind Jimmy Johnson, his teammate Jeff Gordon currently scored in the 8th position. Ralph?
You know, prior to that first pit stop, Jeff Gordon was very happy with his race car. He didn't want any changes. It was just a little tight, but for the most part, he says this car's pretty good. Listen to what he said on the radio as soon as this next run got underway.
Well, I don't know what's going on, man. Really bad loose. Simple. See how tight he gets here. Might just tighten it up for the start. And just no front or rear grip. Simple. Some sure track. This is just see where it goes here.
Well, Jeff is fighting through it right now. He's running back in 8th position. He's been talking with Steve Letarte. This is part of it, guys. You got to search down for another groove out there to help that car come around a little bit to get to that next opportunity to let your crew go to work.
Yeah, hey, Ralph, it seems like these guys, you know, the adjustments that they made, they need to make much bigger swings at it because some of these adjustments aren't really, the cars aren't reacting to.
Well, that's it, Wally. They didn't make any changes this last time around. They were very happy with the car, so they just kind of let it go. That just shows you how fast the track is changing. As you guys brought up earlier, they start laying that rubber down, those grooves start to change. So what was good early might not be so good now. So you either have to adjust your line or your crew has to adjust your car. They went trying to adjust the line. Apparently that didn't work too well. Next time they're going to go to work on the car.
Yeah, whereas earlier the 29 didn't make a big enough adjustment. So those guys are going to have to make a big swing at it. So yeah, I'm surprised the track is changing that much.
Plenty of time to work on your race car, not even 50 laps in. To today's 200 lapper here at Michigan, Kurt Busch continues to lead.
Calling all captains, party responsibly, captain's orders.
Back at Michigan International Speedway, 80 miles west of downtown Detroit, Kurt Busch continues to lead the Heluva good Sour Cream Dips 400. He was the pole sitter today, and he's been dominant early on. A couple of weeks ago, All-Star Weekend, Kurt Busch won $1 million. You could win up to $1 million as well by playing the $1 Million Fan Challenge at NASCAR.com/TNT Million. You've got 4 laps to go in and make or change your picks to lap 50 today. Go in, get it done. You could win up to $1 million. Just outside the top 10, Ryan Newman around David Reagan. Reagan's best ever finish in the Sprint Cup Series right here at Michigan. 3rd. He also had a 3rd place finish at Richmond and Talladega in his career, and he opens up the inside on Newman, trying to grab that spot back, and just behind them, Matt Kenseth. Not a good qualifying effort for Kenseth. He started in the 39th position, driver 17 up to 14th and looking for more. And as these drivers sorted out on track, we get more from Larry McReynolds down at the Torque. And now we have caution. Debris caution. It's our second of the day. It happens at lap 47. And Larry, things a little quieter on track now. It makes your job even easier, huh?
Yeah, you can actually hear me. But Adam, you've heard Wally and Kyle talking about clean air and stuck back in traffic. And the reason the car changes the way it drives is when you're out in clean air, there's nothing in front of your car. You're getting maximum front downforce. Now I want to do a little NASCAR 101. Front downforce is like someone pushing down on the front of this car. It's really making those front tires grip. But when you get behind the car, you lose that downforce, and you almost get the feeling that someone's trying to pick the nose of the car up, actually pick the front tires up, and the driver will be complaining about the car not turning. That's the reason I think late in this race, you'll see a lot of guys do what Darian Grubb and Tony Stewart do, go for 2 tires, trying to stay up front in that clean air.
That was a perfect way to explain that. That was a good job, Larry. I mean, that's exactly what happened. It's just, you know, when you push down on that nose, you're looking for grip. Those tires are getting down in the racetrack. And when Larry said you pick up on the nose, it's literally how it feels when you're driving a race car. You'll turn the wheel, and it feels like you've got no tires on the ground.
Yeah, I tell people a lot of times, it's like if you're on ice, people that live in cold weather climates, when you're on ice and you turn in your driveway and it skids that foot and a half, and you think, oh my God, I'm going to end up in my yard, but then it bites and it goes on in. Imagine that at 180 miles an hour barreling off one of these corners, lap after lap.
Sounds like fun. Here come the leaders, Ralph.
Yep, and diving into his pit stall is the number 9. Here comes that Bud Ford. It's Casey Kane. Now he's having problems with the right front sliding a little bit. They're going to take air pressure out of the right rear. Marty only about 0.3 of a pound. That's it.
Jimmy Johnson says, I have a couple of things going on. It's rolling tight, but when I get back to the gas, it's too loose. So they're going to continue to go down on the track bar. They also make a wedge and an air pressure adjustment, Matt.
Kurt Busch said the car was good. They're going to make a track bar adjustment and a small air pressure adjustment to try to help this 2 car at the beginning of the run to get a little more speed early on. Phil?
Matt, Greg Biffle was a little bit too tight up off, or a little bit too loose up off the corner on that first run. They went 2 rounds down on the track bar. Now they got it too tight, so they took one of those rounds back out. Right now they're keeping an eye on those 14 car that put 2 tires on. Greg was talking to Greg Biffle, his driver, and he said, hey, we're going to keep an eye on that. It worked pretty good for the 14.
Casey Kane, the man that lost the most positions during that exchange as far as the drivers inside the top 10. Kurt Busch holding serve, that #1 pit stall, paying dividends for the Blue Deuce. And now time for the Aflac Trivia Quiz. Get ready, gentlemen. Aflac processes claims quickly, usually in 4 days or less. Who set the race speed record here at Michigan International Speedway in 1999? Any ideas, guys? You don't have to say. I just want you to be thinking about it, all right?
I don't have an idea.
All right.
99? That was the last century. I've moved on. I've moved on. I'd have to think about that one.
You guys are a big help. You know that?
Let me think about it. Let me think about it.
Was it a... Well, help us with the manufacturer of the car.
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. It was a Ford.
99.
Was it a Yates car?
I said it's a Ford. Wally, you want me to give you the answer?
All right, Dale Jarrett. I'll guess.
Let's go Dale Jarrett.
It's
I'm going with him.
final answer here?
I'm going with him.
Okay. All right.
Who is it?
Well, congratulations.
Hey, we got one right. All right.
Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy.
That was exciting stuff right there.
Clint Boyer to a backup car, and now he's on pit road.
There, guys, that's good. That's good. Looks like it's going to be.
If you got work to do on your race car, a long caution early certainly plays big dividends.
I'm trying to figure out what happened. Did they break a hood pin there, and that's what they were trying to fix? Because I don't think he made contact with anybody. Hey, Marty, what's going on down there?
Yeah, he didn't make contact with anyone, Wally, and the hood pin didn't fall off, but somehow, and again, this is a backup car, as you guys mentioned, a portion of the hood was coming up, and they noticed it on the pit stop, so they brought Clint down this time and basically taped it down as best they could with as much 200-mile-an-hour tape as they could find.
So it was coming up at the seam?
Correct, at the seam where it meets into the front end.
Wow, that could be a big problem at 180 miles per hour here on the straightaway.
So a hood, is Marty still there? So a hood pin's not undone and the car hadn't been hit. That's strange, unless a weld has broke on the frame. You know what I mean? And the weld itself.
It probably did because they had a drill there.
Yeah. So the weld has broke and it's kind of lifted itself up, and that's kind of freakish, but it does happen.
Marcus Ambrose brought out the first caution of the day. He was a lap down, but did receive the free pass. The restart comes. Kurt Busch, the leader in the outside lane.
Hamlin's going to drive it in there. He's been really, really good down on the bottom, but he's just got to get enough to clear him, and I'd be moving up right now. Yeah, he's been really good at driving that car down on the bottom, and he pulled that one off.
Yeah, his car really rolls into the corner and to the center of the corner and almost through the center where he can go to the gas really early.
Denny Hamlin, the new race leader, able to get around Kurt Busch on the restart, and now the battle for third heating up. Montoya and Johnson going at it off of 4. And as we see Hamlin officially get that last lap led as he crosses the start-finish line, any surprises from Kurt Busch using that outside lane on the restart? Because he has the choice as the race leader, obviously.
Yeah. I think, as you heard on the pit stop, they made some adjustments to try to make that car better on the get-go. I think that's where he's been having a little bit of trouble on the first or second lap. It's been a little bit of an issue, and I think Matt brought that up. But I don't think he's got anything to worry about. As good as his car is, I believe he's not going to let Hamlin get too far away.
Got to continue to keep our eye on Carl Edwards. He's moving up, started 19th, riding 4th. And
one back to Dale Jr. coming in at the bottom inside.
Now you're on board with his teammate, Greg Biffle. back to the front. Wally, you said it. Kurt Busch not going to let Hamlin get away.
It's funny on how these cars, I mean, these cars are all supposed to be built the same, but they have their own character. And you'll get times where you'll get a race car. It just doesn't do anything for you for the first 4 or 5 laps. But the longer you run, the better the car gets. And I don't know why that is, but there's a lot of times that you'll have a car that's good for the short runs. And I think right now they're just trying to adjust on that 2 car to where it's a little bit better on the restarts. Because obviously restarts are pretty important these days with this, side by side.
Dale Jr. won this race 2 years ago. Here driving around Greg Biffle.
Man, the 88 has been loose all day, or I don't know if that's what it's doing first, but it's obviously getting sideways a lot in the corner. So looks like he's had his hands full today so far.
But he's up in the top 10. And if you can stay in front of the track position game at a place like Michigan, you can be in the hunt, and certainly the 88 doing that right now, Marty.
Indeed they are, and Wally is correct. It's been a loose race car for Junior the entire day. They tried a couple of things to get it a little bit tighter, but remember, Junior finished 3rd here in the race last August, and they pretty much have the same setup today inside that race car. Lance McGrew said that we're going to continue making it tighter if we can on every stop, but Junior said even though it's a little loose, he's pretty happy with it, guys.
Well, it's a comfortable loose then, and that's okay. An uncomfortable loose here at Michigan is when you drive down in the corner and it wants to get sideways as soon as you turn the wheel. For him, I think he's able to get down in the corner. It's loose right in here, right before you get back on the throttle, and that's a car that you can actually drive.
And that was perfect right there, because you show it being loose, and the distance from the left front tire to the white line, he's on it, and the left rear is 2 foot out. That's how loose that car and how free that car is when it gets in that yaw position.
What are you seeing with Dale Earnhardt Jr., Larry?
Well, what I'm seeing, I have to believe they're relieved that it's just doing one thing, that it's just loose, because even in the closing minutes of final practice yesterday, Dale Earnhardt Jr. told Lance McGrew, the car never does the same thing twice. It's loose one lap, it's tight and not turning the next lap. So I have to believe they're relieved. At least it's just doing one thing and one thing consistently.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. continues to ride in the 10th position. He finds himself 4.7 seconds behind the race leader, Denny Hamlin. He had led only 5 total laps entering today, but he's got the field in tow here this afternoon. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing today in the Irish Hills of Michigan. Presented on TNT by Captain Morgan. Denny Hamlin leading this race by 1.2 seconds over second place Kurt Busch. And now time to answer our Aflac trivia quiz. Who set the race speed record at Michigan International Speedway?
The goofballs in the booth already answered that.
And the 2 impatient former drivers have already told you. Dale Jarrett.
Okay.
And yes,
okay.
Wally.
Don't ask us if you don't want an answer.
From now on, you're
it may
off
be
the list.
wrong, but we're going to give you an answer, okay?
Hey, I never have to solicit opinions with you two.
That's exactly right. That's impressive. 173 miles an hour by Dale Jarrett.
Carl Edwards just settled in behind Jeff Gordon, Matt.
We talk all about balance, especially when we come here to Michigan International Speedway. They made a track bar adjustment for Carl Edwards to help through the center of the corner. The car now a little too free on entry and exit, but his spotter Jason Hedleski, who grew up about 25 minutes from here in Clinton, Michigan, helping him with different lines that others are running on the racetrack. And Adam, in fact, he was calling the Busch-Kane line a modified top version. They run the middle, and once they hit the center of the corner, they go to the high side. To try that, he said, for Carl Edwards.
And that's a good point that Matt brings up, because, when you're in a driver, sometimes you kind of get stuck looking for something that you think is working. As we look at the biggest movers, and Kyle Busch up 23rd, Kenseth 18. A lot of guys are moving up. But what that spotter does, that spotter will look around and see what the guys that are beating you, where those other guys are running. And all of a sudden, he'll come up with something that you haven't tried. Yeah. So it's very helpful.
No, it's incredibly helpful. And how many times have you done this? You see the car in front of you, and you change lines, and you run him down, and you think you run him down, but you about halfway run him down, and he about halfway came back to you, because all of a sudden they start giving you your times, and it's like, that line wasn't any faster. It was just a different line. So it's good for the spotters when they're able to tell you. But there's nothing worse than sitting in there driving that car, doing all you can, and he's like, hey, you might want to move around. What do you mean move around? I'm just hanging on, man. I'm going where it wants to go.
And then there are times where you see a car running that's beating you and go, I'm going to run his line, and you just about bust your butt and go, I can't do that.
Yeah, sorry, do not. Remind me never to go there again.
Kasey Kahne won here in 2006. Trying to gain a position here. They're going after 6th, he and Juan Pablo Montoya. Excuse me, that battle for 3rd on track.
But you see how when you get to the corner, how you can roll into the corner.
Oh, he gets sideways here, but he's still staying in the gas. That was a good pass.
That was a good pass.
Ralph and Kasey Kahne. Ralph?
Well, Kasey Kahne's car is not perfect. It's pretty darn good, though, and he is definitely in the hunt today. But one thing Kasey did was he stopped and talked to his crew on pit road before he climbed in that number 9 today. And he told me, I don't normally do that, but I want these guys to know that if we have one good run today, one good performance, we all put it together, we can turn this season around, gain a lot of momentum, and get on down the road. And he is exactly looking to do that here today. When they did that last pit stop, things went well. He jumped on the radio and said, guys, great job. Keep it up. We've got a good car today.
You got to admire the attitude from a race car driver who knows when this season ends, he's going to be on the move.
Yeah, and that's hard sometimes. You know what I mean? And this is an interesting grouping right here. We see the 20.
Are they they're giving each other a lot of room here, aren't they?
There's the
they were.
That's known as the Pocono Gap right there. It's like 16 and a half feet, okay? So that's what we're going to call it. And he's like, please get me away. But you know, that shows a lot of class and a lot of professionalism from the 9 car to say, you know, I know I've only got, 15, 20 races left with you guys, but I'm going to give it all I have. Let's give it all that we have, and we can get something out of this season.
Wally, we need to get Martin Truex Jr. a striped shirt. He may need to be the referee riding here between Logano and Harvick. And actually, the drama ended quickly. Harvick drove right around these guys. That moves the point leader up to 19th. And now Mark Martin a part of that grouping from 20th on back. Truex, Logano, and the 5 of Mark Martin. So Denny Hamlin leads this race. He grabbed it away from Kurt Busch on a restart moments ago. 67 laps complete at Michigan.
Hey, I'm Denny Hamlin, and you're watching NASCAR on TNT.
'72 of 200 laps complete. NASCAR on TNT. Presented by Captain Morgan this afternoon live at the Michigan International Speedway. We're glad you're with us. Joe Gibbs Racing has been dominant of late, winning 6 of the last 9 races. It's Denny Hamlin out front today. Let's go through the field. Here's Matt Yoakum.
And Adam, you talk about 2 guys who had a great 2 months. Denny Hamlin has won 3 of the last 9 races. Out front, the first stop, no changes, but the last stop, they made a slight air pressure change to try to help his exit. He says it's still a little too free late on exit. The 2 of Kurt Busch. Meanwhile, they made a track bar adjustment. He told Steve Addington, as we go, we'll learn more. The track bar adjustment made the car tight in the apex, but now we have moved our problem route to the entry part of the corner.
Kasey Kahne is running in 3rd in car number 9. They took 3/10 of a pound of air out of the right rear in that last stop because the car was loose. Now it might be a touch too tight. Man, hard to believe that only 3/10 of a pound of air made such a drastic change.
And the guy, Ralph, trying to chase him down, Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42. The science project evidently has worked. He's been pretty solid. Too free to run the top, but the car is not bad. He says the car needs a little more help through the center of the corner, Ralph.
Jeff Gordon's got his car running in 5th place right now. Still searching for grip, especially coming up and off the corners. The car is also a little tight in turns 1 and 2, Matt.
And you talk about Carl Edwards running in the 6th position, going back and forth between Bob Osborne and Carl. A lot of conversation about the entry and exit, a little too free. But he says the car has an aero push issue when he is stuck back in traffic. A little more clean air on the nose of that 99, Marty, and it comes alive.
Well, for Jimmy Johnson on the last stop, Matt, there were a couple of issues. Chad Knaus was able to fix those with an adjustment on everything. Track bar, wedge, and air pressure. And Jimmy just now radioed to the team about 3 laps ago. Said, guys, getting much more comfortable on this run than the previous run, Ralph.
Well, Jeff Burton in car number 31 is running in 8th position right now. He's been pretty quiet on the radio this run. He's been searching for rear grip throughout the afternoon. Now, they made some air pressure adjustments in the rear tires. The biggest problem, Phil, is that car is just not rolling through the middle like he'd like.
Well,
David Reagan made no changes on the first pit stop. Second pit stop, they did a little bit of air pressure. He was getting a little bit too free in and to the center. Just a couple laps ago, he reported to Donnie Wingo that right now the car is a little bit too loose all the way through the corner. So they will tighten that car up on the next pit stop, Marty.
Phil, Tony Stewart hanging in there in the top 10. Remember, he took the 2 tires early on this last stop. He did take 4 tires. This is the car you may remember from Texas. Tony really dominated the early part of that race, got in that big wreck with Jeff Gordon at the end of that race. Right now, Tony says the car is loose, and the time's starting to fall off just a little too much to his liking. Larry?
Yeah, I've been watching David Ruderman in that 00 car. He's kind of been hanging about where he started. He started 9th. He's running 13th right now. But when you look at his last 6 races, he has gained 11 spots in the points after a disastrous start. And, you know, guys, even with 12 races to go, teams and drivers are starting to talk about points. We've been talking a lot about Casey Kane in that 9 car right now that's running in the 3rd position, has been up in the top 5 most of the race. I know he's 240 points out of the top 12, but what they have going for him is in 2005, with 12 to go, Matt Kenseth with 320 points out of the top 12, and he came back to make the chase.
Kane, a driver that is capable of going out and getting on a run and winning on successive weeks. Casey looking good today. He's 3rd, some 4.5 seconds behind race leader Denny Hamlin.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from Michigan, presented by Captain Morgan on TNT, is brought to you by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of Joey Logano and the number 20 team. For updated stats, news, and information about Joey Logano, visit HomeDepotRacing.com.
Denny Hamlin picking up where he left off a week ago. Victorious for the 4th time this season at Pocono. He's leading here today. Kurt Busch, Casey Kane, Juan Montoya, Jeff Gordon make up the top 5. And now we take a look at the Gillette Young Guns driver update. I told you Denny Hamlin's out front. Casey Kane having a good afternoon. Carl Edwards, one of our big movers today. There you see Ryan Newman in the top 15. And a driver that caught Wally's eye during the break, Kyle Busch, started at the back of the field today with an engine change, and he's all the way up to 14th. You see Kyle here looking for more.
Yeah, he's on a mission, as usual. He has been picking him off. His lap time's been pretty good, and I don't know what he's saying about his car, Marty, but he's going in the right direction.
Let's just say the mission didn't get off to a very good start, Wally. They actually set up for very sunny conditions. I talked to Dave Rogers about it this morning, and in fact, Kyle called him after the Truck Series race yesterday and said make the race car even tighter because the racetrack loosened up much more than Kyle thought it would yesterday. That turned out to be a bit of a mistake. So what they did on this last stop, they pulled a spring rubber from the left rear spring, and this car came to life, picked up 0.4 of a second. After they pulled that spring rubber out, Kyle said it is right on the money right now, and Dave Rogers has told him, now we're back in the ball game. Let's take it from here. Running 15th right now, but moving up to the field, Wally.
Talk about Kyle Busch being a part of the Gillette Young Gun family, and fans, be sure to visit your local Target store to pick up the new Gillette Fusion Pro Glide Razor in stores now.
Wow. Did you see that 88 car? That 88 car got so sideways. I think the 18 checked up, thinking he was going to spin. He actually lost ground. That 88 is hanging on right now. He rolls in and rolls free through the center, but when he picks up the gas, that thing is just sawing up off the corner. It's just waving as he comes up.
But he's doing it every lap, consistently every lap.
And you know what? And have driven in the past. You know how it is. It's okay if you know it's going to do the same thing lap after lap, because you kind of know where you can catch it. You kind of know how far you can go. It's like some of the pit guys have said so far. When you've got a car that pushes and then is loose and then snaps and then and you don't know what it's going to do, it takes your breath lap after lap. He knows this thing's going to be free, but he can count on that.
If you're on the gas and it's loose, you can control it. Yeah. Because you're on the gas and all you got to do is roll out of it to give it some bite.
All these drivers going to have a chance to make adjustments when we come back. Green flag pit stops on the way. You're watching NASCAR on TNT.
Green flag pit stops underway here at the Michigan International Speedway. Dale Earnhardt Jr., as we've seen several times in the last few minutes, when an extremely loose race car, they do an air pressure adjustment. He said he wanted to clean the grill. A little bit worried about the oil temperature, Ralph.
Marty, we've got Casey Kane pitting as well. He's going to take a little wedge out to loosen him back up. He says when the sun comes out, the car gets even looser. Now, they've had temperature issues all day, too. You can see some fluid spewing out of the car, Matt, as they battle to keep the
pit road, the 99 of Carl Edwards. They're going to make a wedge adjustment on that Ford. A little further up pit road, the 2 of Kurt Busch. They're going to backtrack a little bit, take the track bar adjustment out. They made the last stop. They've made a wedge adjustment to help on entry, and also an air pressure change as well. Marty.
Matt, Jimmy Johnson leading his pit stall, said this car is just riding way too much on the right rear. Chad Canals with a wedge and air pressure adjustment trying to get this car to tighten up. They have not been able to get it tight, exiting the corner for Jimmy all day long, Matt.
And the 11. Denny Hamlin pulls to a stop. Look for a wedge adjustment on this car as well. He wanted a little more help late on exit. The adjustment not completed yet. The second cam by Scott Wood going in. Looks like they're going to go with just an air pressure adjustment on this stop for the 11 of Hamlin. He's away.
A lot of nice looking pit stops down there just now. I mean, everybody did a really good job on their stops.
That cycle of green flag stops began at lap 88.
Uh-oh, no
problems
fuel
for
pressure.
Hamlin.
Still running. It may have picked up air in the pits.
Ooh, that's going to cost him the lead.
There goes Kurt Busch. You saw him drive by Montoya.
Now it's dying.
Okay. All right. What he's basically saying, did you hear what Mike said? Mike said it may have picked up some air in the pits. That means they were all but out of fuel when they came in. There's air in that line. There was air in the or there was gas in the bowls in the carburetor, and that's when he came down pit road. He parked, but somewhere in that pit stop, there became an air pocket or an air bubble between the carburetor and between the fuel cell.
Matt.
And Adam, when he started to pull out of that pit box, you could hear that 11 car a little sluggish, trying to get the power down.
Yeah, they're going to have to be careful on that, not to cut it close if it gets to the end of this race. That'll cost them the race.
Okay, but here's something that they've got that nobody else has right now. Okay, they've got one full green flag stop under their belt leading the race, not running in a draft. So they know that's my max number right there. I can't go any farther than that unless the driver saves me some, or unless I run in a draft. So that's a piece of knowledge that Mike can put in his book, and that Denny can put in his book and say, okay, if it gets down to 2 extra laps, I'm going to have to either save or I'm going to have to draft. If it gets down to, say, 8 or 10, I'm going to have to get back in the pack and race myself.
But you can't even match that lap. You almost need to come in a lap earlier, right,
yes.
Matt?
Absolutely, Wally. And Mike Ford just told them they will play a little more conservative on this run and for the rest of the race. Mike told them we should have been good for about 2 more laps. So information learned. We're going to put use from here to the finish.
And you know that's good stuff right there, because you've got a crew chief down there leading the race, thinking he's got a cushion, and all of a sudden, boom, he finds out he doesn't have a cushion. Now I want you to look at this. The 2 car has dropped back into the clutches of the 9 car. That happened on pit road. As they went down pit road, and we were on different guys' pit stops, I was watching the 2 car. 2 car got held up twice coming down pit road. Once on the entrance up here just before the start-finish line, and once when he turned into his pits, the 20 car of Joey Logano was exiting. He had to stop, let Joey out, accelerate again, and drive another 4 or 5. So the 2 or 3 seconds lead that he had over the 9 car evaporated right on pit road.
And that lap machine of Travis Kvapil there, you see the 38 making life difficult on Casey Kane.
Casey's got to run here. He's going to pull out. Oh.
Kane's been strong today. Here he is at the start-finish line. Pulling out of line. This is the battle for the race lead at lap 95.
That was a strong move right there. But again, we've seen the 2 cars just be a little bit off on the first 2 or 3 laps after a pit stop. Whoa, sideways there.
Denny Hamlin lost the ground exiting pit road, as we showed you. Busch, Kane, and Montoya all went by, but Hamlin back up running strong and gaining those spots back. Here he is to the inside of Montoya for 3rd.
And Denny's made that move work all day long. Drive to the bottom, let the car exit really high, build that momentum. And yeah, Montoya gains maybe a car length back, but he's got the position. But the interesting thing about the shuffle in the top 3 right now is the shuffle occurred not because of pit stops. Those guys had solid pit stops with solid team efforts. It shuffled because of issues that happened either entering pit road or, in Denny's case, exiting pit road because of the fuel.
And it was about a 4-second shuffle. That's really what cost Denny is at least 4 seconds on the racetrack is what it cost him there.
You see the 2 coming right here. Okay, he's got to check up for the 52. Now he's got to check up for the 2. Now he's got an accelerate, or for the 20. Now he's got an accelerate, and he's in. Those 2 things right there knocked him back 3 or 4 seconds into the clutches of the 9, who had a clean pit stop, a clean entry, and a clean exit.
And as we all know, green flag pit stops, it doesn't take much to put you behind the 8 ball. You're right on board with Kyle Busch. He's had a successful run today. Under caution for the 3rd time today at Michigan. We will show you why in a moment. First, pit stops for the 3rd time today. Ralph?
Here comes Casey Kane to his pit stall. First one in. This is only the 5th time this year he has led a race. Let's see if they only take 2 tires this year on this stop, I should say. That's going to be the call. 2 tires and fuel, Phil.
Ralph, David Reagan was a little bit too free. A little bit better that time than it was the time before. 2 tires, Marty. No trouble. David Reagan makes contact with Casey Mears, trying to leave the pits, Marty.
2 tires for Tony Stewart, already gone from this end of pit road. Darian Grubb made the call once he saw everybody else take 2, Matt.
Absolutely the same call for the 2 of Kurt Busch. He said keep an eye on the 9, since they will be hitting their box first. Let's see what they do. If they go right sides, let's do the same. That's exactly what Kurt Busch did.
We show you the issues for Casey Mears on pit road. His problems compounded on the pit lane after something that happened on track. The reason we're under caution, the 83 of Casey Mears into his teammate, the 82 of Scott Speed.
There's #1 rule when you're teammates. Do not take your teammate out for any reason.
I think we're all going to get in a fight because it seems to be a theme among teammates this year, doesn't it? Back in a moment.
You're watching NASCAR on TNT.
And make sure you race out to see our new movie, Grown Ups. Did you really just say that? Yeah, because it's funny.
No, it wasn't.
Well, and I guess I shouldn't say that we'll see him in the winner's circle on June 25th.
Okay, you know, I'm going to put him into the wall.
Casey Mears has gone to the garage. The reason why, he had some damage when he got together with his teammate. That's why we're under caution for the 3rd time today.
Yeah, these guys have been running hard at it, and it looked like the 83 car split up just a little bit, but again, Kyle, you know, that's one thing a car owner, that's the last thing that they want to see is you reckon out.
As a car owner, you expect your guys to give each other room. Here's audio from inside the car here.
I mean, really, we're running like in the very back of the pack like crap, and we're going to wreck each other? Really? All right, take a deep breath. Enough of that. We got a lot of racing to do.
That's good. And that's Ryan trying to calm him down. But that's an excellent point. You know, if you're running for 5th and 6th, if you're running like Jeff Gordon and those guys were, you know, at Texas, that's a little bit different. But when you're running 36th or 37th or wherever these guys were running at the time, I'm really not sure. But they were at the back of the pack. And that's frustrating for this driver, especially for Scott Speed.
And the sponsor, Red Bull, had a little bit of an issue with Weber and Vettel in the Formula One race a couple weeks ago where those 2 guys wrecked into each other.
We're getting very close to checking off that for every team this year. Every teammate has wrecked each other so far this year. It seems like it's amazing how this year's been.
Travis Quapple got the free pass. It's an all Penske front row. That because Sam Hornish Jr. on the outside stayed out under caution and did not pit. Back to green just past halfway at lap 103.
Now, we saw Hornish last week at Pocono get clean air and drive away from...
Look at how sideways the 2 just got. Denny Hamlin got right underneath him, took the air off the spoiler.
And then
Kurt Busch hangs on.
Yeah, and then you see these guys just freight train him on the inside. Now, the outside line will come back, but back to Hornish. We saw him get clean air and really drive away. In the restart previous to this, we saw the 11 get clean air and drive away. Now, Hornish has stayed out, so the tires, there's a little bit difference here, but still, having fresh air and having that clean air is almost a Tony Stewart thing that we saw earlier in the race.
Hornish last pitted at lap 86 in that cycle of green flag pit stops. All the others came down under caution for various strategies at lap 100. One driver on the move since the restart, Jeff Gordon. You saw that move he made to jump up to 3rd. Now he's racing Denny Hamlin, about to lose that position actually as driver 24. And Casey Kane waiting right there as well.
that 11 gets through the center better than any car I've seen so far up to this point.
And when he gets to the center, he gets to the gas quick, and that engine pulls up off the corner.
The good news for Denny Hamlin, he was able to sort out his issues that he encountered in a cycle of green flag pit stops a moment ago. Larry McReynolds has more as you see Kurt Busch going to the inside of his teammate for the lead. Larry?
Yeah, Adam, I'm trying to explain exactly what happened to the 11 car. They no longer run that mechanical fuel pump up on the side of the engine. They run what we call a Waterman fuel pump. And it's located right here in the trunk area with the fuel cell. It's a cable-driven system. Now, I'm going to go over to my Toyota cutaway engine and rear end assembly. This would simulate pretty much the Waterman fuel pump. And it's driven off of a cable, and you can see how it's turning right there, and that's pumping the fuel. Now, this is the cable, and what drives the cable is right off the back of the camshaft. Now, they ran 42 laps on fuel with that 11 car, and when you're out there on the racetrack at high speed, you're turning over 9,000 RPM. But when Denny came into the pits, he's probably sitting there about 17 or 1,800 RPMs, and the fuel pump is turning a lot slower. They were very low on fuel, I think, as Mike Ford told him. It got a gulp of air. The minute he got back out on the racetrack up to speed, he got the RPM up, it picked up fuel, and away he went. And oh, by the way, guys, remember what happened to David Reagan on pit road a while ago? One of my keys to the race, take care of your nose and fenders, even on pit road.
Hey, Larry, what is the advantage or the disadvantage of the change that they made running that different pump?
There's no question. It's a safety standpoint, Wally. Just think about all the times when the fuel pump was up on the side of the engine, especially on a Chevrolet on the right front, a car would hit the wall and we'd see a big fire. It knocked the fuel pump. This is strictly a safety issue.
Gotcha.
And while Larry was talking about the situation with Denny Hamlin's race car about 30 laps ago, Kurt Busch and Denny Hamlin both able to drive around Sam Hornish Jr. The 77 has since dropped back to fourth. New race leader Kurt Busch at lap 107.
And that's an interesting thing for all the fans that probably watch this sport and don't know. NASCAR makes safety innovations and don't make a big deal about them sometimes. We know about the Hans collars. We know about the safer walls. We know about the COT. But there's those little things that change internally in that garage area that don't get a lot of press that makes these cars, that will make these cars safer in the long run and make them safer for the crews, the drivers, and the safety teams.
Larry mentioned the 6 of David Reagan and that problem he had on pit road. He was 6th when he came to the pit lane. He's now scored 33rd, and a driver that has really been solid today. You see him on your screen, the 18 of Kyle Busch. If you weren't with us earlier in the weekend, changed an engine here on Friday. Not much practice time prior to qualifying. NASCAR rules say if you change an engine, you must go to the rear of the field at the start of the race. Busch did that, but he is now in the top 10. And Wally, if you can rally like he has in the first 100 laps, gain the track position, now you've set yourself up for a very successful day.
Yeah, his car has been awfully strong. We've been watching, and it's very strong in traffic. If this guy ever gets out front, it could be trouble for everybody else if he gets into that clean air. But right now, his car's working really well in traffic. He's been patient, and he's been picking them off one by one. So I think these guys are going to have to be worried about this 18 before the day's over.
I think so too, and let's let this be a good example to people to say, okay, why is qualifying important? It's taken him half the race to put himself back in contention. He's raced over 100 laps here at a 200-lap race to get where now he thinks they're in contention to contend for a win and to put themselves in position. So when people say, well, qualifying is not that big a deal and we can come from the back, yeah, they're saying it a little bit for publicity and a little bit to help themselves because they know it's a big deal.
We mentioned the change in the afternoon for David Reagan. He's dropped a number of positions, Phil.
Yeah, Adam, what a horrible break. He was up in the top 10 solidly for the majority of this race. Came down pit road. We documented that they made the contact with Casey Mears, and unfortunately, that relegated him back to the very back of the pack. He's continuing to run pretty fast laps, but it's just the opposite of Kyle Busch, as you're going to watch the problem he had on pit road. Watch him leave pit road. Casey Mears coming in. They actually had to come back in, adjust on the toe end. The car is pretty good right now, but David's running in the 32nd position, and unfortunately, we're over halfway in this race. It's going to be almost impossible for him to get that track position back.
Yeah, and the key is, Phil, it's going to drive halfway decent if you have 2 fresh tires or 4. What's really going to come into play is when he gets some laps on these tires. That's, I think, where he's really going to start seeing the handle go away on that car.
See David Reagan on track. Right now, he's in the 32nd position. Kurt Busch continues to lead at Michigan. Hamlin, Kane, Gordon, Burton, the top 5. Michigan International Speedway, 80 miles west of downtown Detroit, Michigan. We're happy you're with us for NASCAR Racing on TNT this afternoon, presented by Captain Morgan. With Wally Dallenbach and Kyle Petty, I'm Adam Alexander. New race leader in this afternoon's 400-mile event at Michigan, Denny Hamlin, while we were away, driving around Kurt Busch.
Yeah, Denny's just been, he's been the class of the field so far, especially in the middle of the corners. He's really gotten through. He's got a lot of power. He's able to pull this pass off.
And that's a power move right there, because he came up off of turn 4 on the bottom, didn't use the draft. He just drove past him.
These two drivers have won the last 2 races. Now we go through the field, beginning from 3rd on back. Ralph Shaheen on driver number 9.
Yeah, Casey Kane's running in 3rd right now. He's led some laps today, only the 5th time this season Casey has had that car up on the point of the field. You might remember I said to you earlier today that he was telling the crew, we get one good run in, we can turn some momentum around. This crew has been up, pumped up, and following Casey every move on the track today. The 31 of Jeff Burton slots in right behind him. Jeff has his machine in search of rear grip. The car turns good into the corners. However, the rear grip is what he is lacking. Jeff Gordon follows him around the racetrack in car 24. He's been pretty quiet on the radio this stint. However, he is still chasing a lack of grip with this race car. He was looking for his 3rd victory here this year, Marty, and so far, he doesn't seem to have the car to get there.
Well, Ralph, Tony Stewart's experimented with 2 tires earlier on, 2 tires on this last stop also for Stewart. And the thing they've been fighting is a loose race car. Tony said after the last adjustments, it took off much better this time. He was happy with how the car is running early here. For Sam Hornish Jr., they did not stop last time. Their last pit stop was lap 90, so the tire's a little bit older. I talked to Travis Geisler. He said, you know what? We didn't really have anything to lose, so we wanted to stay up front with those 10-lap tires. The car a little too loose on throttle for Sam. Matt?
As this racetrack, lap after lap, continues to rubber in and continues to get more slick. Carl Edwards has moved up the racetrack. He says his car, beginning about 4 to 5 laps into this run, he said it's worse, meaning the car is even more free, and it's getting looser and looser, Phil, as every lap goes on.
Yeah, Matt, the 16 car, Greg Biffle, had to spend a little extra time on pit road last time. He had a little front end damage. They had to put some Barabon on there. He was just able to get by Jimmy Johnson for the 9th position. Greg Biffle's car's a little bit too snug. He went up a little bit on the track bar, Marty.
Jimmy Johnson just lost that 9th position to Greg Biffle. He said his car is comfortable to drive, more comfortable than it was early on, but he doesn't feel like it has the speed, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the 48 get a little track position out of this if they possibly can in the next stop as well. Jimmy said the car a little bit too loose. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s teammate behind him, he's actually been very happy on the radio, told the guys, you know what, it's been a fun day. He said, we haven't had a car like this in a few weeks. I want to thank you guys. They have a very good handling race car by Junior's description, even though it is very loose. And Kyle Busch, we cannot talk enough about how good of a day this has been for Kyle. They finally got back up to the front. The car had been a little bit loose once they pulled that spring rubber out, but now Kyle said the car a little bit too tight. He wants to go back on the wedge adjustments they made on the last stop. Larry?
Well, Marty, a lot like Kyle Busch, another car that started near the back of the field. We talked to his crew chief. In fact, Marty did before the race. Matt Kenseth in that 17 car started in 35th. He's running in 13th right now. Watching his lap times, they still need some adjustments, but I think the biggest thing they're going to need is he's working on Kyle Busch right now for that 12th position. I think they need some cautions to try to get caught up with those adjustments to go with it.
Another driver not doing a bad job today, Larry, is Joey Logano. So much made of his situation late in the race with Kevin Harvick last week. We kind of lost sight of the fact that he was able to finish 13th. Not bad when you consider what that team dealt with late in the race in a green-white checker finish situation. And then right behind him, A.J. Allmendinger to round out the top 15, having another solid run here today. Denny Hamlin continues to lead. 14 lead changes among 8 different drivers. And fans want more TNT coverage? The Coke Zero in-car camera on Race Buddy lets you ride shotgun with Coca-Cola Racing family drivers. Check out the Coke Zero in-car camera on NASCAR.com's Race Buddy. Matt Kenseth, a two-time winner here at Michigan, currently in 12th. You see him on track there. Denny Hamlin looking for his first victory here in the Irish Hills. Denny Hamlin leading the Heluva Good Sour Cream Dips 400 from Michigan International Speedway. And NASCAR fans, your vote helped determine last week's rank from Pocono. Jeff Gordon, of course, leading the standings. Dale Earnhardt Jr. there as well. And you can cast your vote to vote for the AT&T fastest pit crew, I should say, from your AT&T phone. Text the car number 2258 for the crew you think is the fastest and most valuable. TNT will reveal the standings each week, so make sure to vote. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year Award, brought to you by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. The Jeffs doing battle. Gordon on the inside of Burton, and this is for position. In fact, Gordon up to 4th in the running order. And that's kind of where he's hit a wall today. We've seen him anywhere from 4th to 8th. Not really able to crack the top 3. That really has belonged all day long to Hamlin, Kane, and Kurt Busch. How about Tony Stewart? Talked about the fact that they had to manufacture strategy last week at Pocono. They were able to do so to a solid finish, but we knew in hearing from Tony after the race, he wasn't satisfied with performance. 2-tire stop early today got him some track position, and Wally, they're doing what they need to. Smoke currently 6th.
Yeah, I think, you know, some of these guys, I think the 2-tire stop worked. I think some of them didn't. I think Harvick did last time, and he slid back to 18th spot, and I can't imagine that he's too happy with his car at the moment. But, you know, it's worked for some of these guys, and now's the time, like I say, they're all experimenting right now, really, for the last stop.
Greg Biffle, another driver that needs to get off the slide. He has struggled in recent weeks. 28th a week ago at Pocono, involved in that accident on the green-white checker finish. 32nd at Charlotte the week before that. But he's 7th today, and Biffle with confidence, a 2-time winner here at Michigan.
I think Biffle has been ripping off some pretty good lap times. I'm just not sure his car comes in fast enough to be able to stay up there up front and, you know, actually race with these guys. I think the long runs are working in his favor. It seems like he's losing so much ground to the leaders, it's really hard to make up when you're running almost the same exact times as the leader.
Here you see Jimmy Johnson looking for his first win at Michigan, Marty.
Trying to get his way back to the front, Adam, and he said on the radio a moment ago that sometimes these multiple lines at Michigan, they can be more confusing to the driver than anything.
Just curious, why are you running the bottom now? You got to go where there's clean air. I passed about 3 cars down there on the bottom earlier. The higher I go and let the car get static in the center of the corner, the tighter it gets. You're 1 and 2. But I'm loose in on the bottom.
So what do you do in that case, drivers? You go to the top, it's too tight, you slow down. You go to the bottom, it's too loose. I guess the middle's the right spot, isn't it, Kyle Wallen?
Here's what I do. I call my crew chief and I say, help. Okay.
4 tires.
Yeah, 4 tires. Give me some. You know, because that's how, but that's a characteristic of this racetrack, but it is. You've got to find that place. And we've seen guys go in high, come back across the racetrack low. We've seen guys run 1 corner low, 1 corner high. We've seen both corners high. I mean, you've got to constantly search. But that is what's good about this racetrack. The problem with that is it's hard to race when your car's doing all those things at one time. You can get around the racetrack, but it's hard to actually catch someone and figure out a way to pass them.
I'll tell you, a guy you mentioned hitting a wall here, Adam, is Kyle Busch. He got to a point where he was coming, and then all of a sudden he lost a couple of spots there. Looks like his car might be a little bit loose. I'm not sure for 100%, but he certainly has slowed down.
Here's Tony Stewart to the inside of Jeff Burton. A change in position for 5th. Old Smoke in the top 5. Last time these drivers on pit road under caution at lap 100. We'll have green flag pit stops when we return to Michigan.
Calling all captains!
Yeah, brother.
all NASCAR fans to party responsibly. Captain's orders.
Green flag pit stops underway as we continue to make laps here at Michigan. Ryan Newman on the pit lane, Matt.
That's the past two stops on pit road. The 39, one of the first cars to pit. Clean the grill. The car was a little too tight on the last run for Newman.
His stop coming at lap 138. A.J. Allmendinger, Juan Pablo Montoya, Clint Boyer, and his teammate Kevin Harvick making their stop at lap 138 as well. Back to Matt Yoakum.
And this past run, Juan Pablo Montoya told Brian Patty the car, this run way too tight. He's been just trying to find that balance, going back and forth. They're going to make a track bar adjustment. You can see the wedge wrench in the back window making that track bar adjustment. Ralph?
Casey Kane is in. Look at the fluid spewing out of the right side of the hood of this Budweiser Ford. They've been having issues with that all day. It got as hot as 275 degrees. They got the approval for a 6-man to go over the wall, and they're going to try to do everything they can to keep this car cool, Phil.
Ralph, Greg Biffle needs to be a little bit tighter. Greg Irwin said, I think 4 tires will tighten you up a little bit, Matt.
The biggest issue for Kurt Busch, the just 2 free on exit. He believes that's where the 11 of Hamlin and the 9 of Kane were beating him. Adjustments already completed. Marty?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. peeling out of his pit stall. He said, free it up just a little bit. They got it too tight that run, but he did make progress. Tony Stewart also hit pit road earlier. He was a little too tight. They made an air pressure adjustment on his car. Ralph?
The 24 of Jeff Gordon is in as well. They're going to make a 4-tire stop for Jeff this time around. No chassis adjustments for Jeff Gordon, Matt.
Number of adjustments for leader Denny Hamlin. He said he was borderline being way too free on exit down at 3 and 4. Chassis adjustments already been completed on the 11. He's away. Marty?
Matt, Chad Knaus decides to make a wedge adjustment to fix those problems Jimmy Johnson talked about on the radio just a moment ago. And 4 tires, a little bit longer stop than they would like. Ahead of him on pit road, Kyle Busch said the car was way too tight at the end of that run. That's how they lost a little bit of time and fell back just a bit. They make a wedge adjustment trying to loosen up Kyle Busch's car just a little bit, guys.
Second cycle of green flag pit stops here today at Michigan. And to this point, we have not been notified by NASCAR as to any pit road speeding penalties. Matt Kenseth has inherited the race lead. He, like all the other drivers you just saw on track, last pitted at lap 100 under caution.
He's spitting water out too. I saw in that lap when he went through the corner, it looks like his car's overheating a tad.
Yeah, we saw the 9 car when it came down pit road just seemed, you know, the way these grills work, they're up under that ledge. So a piece of trash gets up under that ledge and blocks that entrance, and it doesn't take much at all. You can see it bubbling. That's a good catch, Wally. You see it just right there, right at the back left corner, right corner of the hood there. It's just blowing out a little bit.
Kenseth going to make his pit stop at lap 142. Picked up 5 bonus points after entering the day 4th in points. Marty?
And remember, guys, all these 4 teams also running the brand new FR9 engine. A lot of steam pouring out of Kenseth's car. His car also was a little too tight. They make an air pressure and a track bar adjustment. You see it pouring out of the right front side. They are thoroughly, though, cleaning the grill to make sure they get everything off in a long stop on the left rear.
16.5 on the stopwatch for Kenseth. And here's Casey Kane. We saw him on track a moment ago.
But look at how much he's got blocked off there, Kyle. I mean, look at this big piece of red, deal that they've got blocked off there. So they're really pushing the envelope, is trying to get downforce on the front of that car, as well as not make it overheat.
And remember, this was the new engine that they thought could run a little bit more tape on it because they thought it was a 10 or 15 degrees difference in the cooling. But you saw that not only was there paper up under there were chunks of rubber that came out. So it doesn't take much. You don't have a lot of square inches anyhow. It doesn't take much to send these things over the top.
Matt Kenseth made that pit stop. Denny Hamlin back out in front of the field. 4.1 seconds his lead over second place Casey Kane.
Welcome back to NASCAR on T from Michigan International Speedway. Denny Hamlin remains the leader right now. His best finish 3rd this race last year. Let's get a quick look at our Verizon race summary. A lot of action going on in the track of late. We've had 9 different leaders, 16 lead changes. You can see the average speed, 3 cautions for a total of 10 laps, 7 cars out of this race. Some cars struggling with debris. We find our Larry Mack, who is out at the test car. Larry Mack, what are you cooking up out there to show us?
Well, hopefully I'm not cooking up my engine, Lindsay, but if you look right now, you put as much tape on the grill opening right here. This is the opening that sends air to cool the water in the radiator and the oil and oil cooler as well. You try to tape it up as much as possible at a track like Michigan because it helps the drag of the car, the straightaway speed, and helps that front downforce I was talking about earlier. Now what I've got here, walking through the garage area this morning, I'm taped up very similar to what I saw this morning. It's roughly about 36 square inches total, a little at the top, a little at the bottom. Now let's just say a piece of debris gets on there and blocks up about a third of that. The optimum water temperature is about 210 to 220. If about a third of this gets blocked up, it's going to raise that water temperature to about 240 or 250. When you get over 250, that's when you'll start seeing the steam come out. You've got to go in there, you've got to get this debris off. The other thing you may have to do is open up just a little bit more of that opening. And Matt Yoakum, I think Ryan Newman in the 39 car, maybe they found some debris on his opening.
Absolutely, Larry Mack. Those splitter braces, almost like a cow catcher. We see hot dog wrappers, even windshield tear-offs that end up on the front of the car. But Ryan Newman had something a little unique. Evidently, somebody did a repair job in their car, and a big hunk of aluminum hooked onto the splitter braces on the nose of that car. They brought Ryan in. His car is tight. They took that off. The car is still tight. Larry Mack, he said it feels like something may be amiss underneath. It might have damaged some of the crush panel or some of the bodywork underneath that race car.
Well, again, the splitter braces we were talking about, we talked about them a lot at Pocono last week. A lot of times these things will get damaged, but if you can follow me around here, you've got crush panels in this area right here that seals off from the front engine compartment back to the driver cockpit, and evidently that crush panel has got knocked out. We have a crush panel on the left front, the right front, and in the rear, and when that happens, you'll get all the fumes back in there to the driver, and that could really cause an issue.
Talked about Ryan Newman. He's currently 26th, and this would be a big blow for him. He entered 14th in points. He continues there right now, but he's really lost some ground to 12th place Clint Boyer. And haven't talked a lot about Boyer today. Started at the back of the field in a backup car after crashing yesterday during the happy hour session. Very quietly, Boyer has worked his way to the front. He's currently scored in the 13th position.
And I think that one statement right there, he crashes a car, they unload it, they get it ready. He's out here running. He's 13th, just as you say right now. I think that shows how far the Childress organization has come and how dedicated and committed they are to winning the championship. Because if Boyer's team can do it, the 31 team of Burton can do it, and the 29 team of Harvick can do it. These guys are going to be in the chase all year.
Allmendinger with a back end sliding around. He's 16th. Sam Hornish Jr. taking advantage here.
Okay, now I'm going to say something here.
I know what you're going to say.
That's a BS move right there by Allmendinger. Yeah. He loses ground, he gets sideways, and then he tries to block the 77. Don't block. Don't block. You're the one that almost wrecked. Yeah. Be thankful you hung on to it.
And as we watch Sam Hornish Jr., we should mention he's on a different pit cycle than those drivers around him. He last pitted at 129. If it stays green, he would have to come in before guys like Allmendinger and Kevin Harvick, who's got a little bit of a late race move going on. This is his time of the day, Kyle.
This is his time of the day when he gets back in it. And let me be clear, I defended Allmendinger's block last week, okay? Because it was a green-white checkered. It was at the end of the race. I'm committed to that block. This block with what? 45, 46 laps to go for 17th or 18th position? That's not racing. Okay, that in my opinion.
Allmendinger right now in the 16th position. That's Harvick on the outside of him, and just behind him, Hornish, Rudeman, and others. In fact, Marcus Ambrose back in the top 20 as Harvick completes the pass around Allmendinger. Ambrose, who spun early in this race, went a lap down, got the free pass, and has been running as high as the top 15, and right now being scored in 20th. There's Kyle Busch in 11th. Last time around, problems for him. Watch him right behind Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those deals where we saw earlier. When you get up behind a car coming off the corner, your car actually loses downforce because of all that big drag on the car in front of you. And the car actually slides. It's just like Larry said earlier, it's like somebody picks up the front of the car and you just lose the grip in the front tires.
So Kyle Busch has a few items to sort through as we close on the end of this event. 44 laps to go, and it's his teammate Denny Hamlin who continues to dominate here at Michigan. $40 laps to go here at Michigan. Today's aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy. Denny Hamlin going around Paul Menard, putting him a lap down. Menard right now being scored in the 24th position. And we remind you fans, go to NASCAR.com/TNT Million. You could win up to $1 million. You pick the top 10 drivers from any of the races over the course of the next 5 weeks. And you have to pick the top 10 drivers in their correct running order. If you do so, you can win up to $1 million. And just by going to NASCAR.com and playing, one lucky fan will receive $1,000 each week. The 5 of Mark Martin on pit road. He won this race 1 year ago after starting 32nd. 5 times Martin has won here at Michigan. Jimmy Johnson, a driver who has never won here at Michigan. And we go through the field from 12th on back. Marty, we haven't talked a lot about Jimmy Johnson today.
No, and you know what? Actually, I think they're okay with that, to be honest with you, Adam. I talked to Jimmy Johnson about his Pocono weekend. He said, listen, right now what we need to focus on, nice top 10 finishes. We don't need to be worried about getting wins, get ourselves into the chase. That's when we can get our wins. We need to get back on our feet after our May debacle. But Jimmy right now, so the car loose for him. He said it's way too much positive steering wheel behind him. Kyle Busch right there, you see him just passing him. Kyle said his car way too loose. Obviously that was the case when he hit the wall a moment ago. Clint Boyer has come to life. What they did, guys, they added a packer to the right front shock, and the car really worked after that. The car a little bit too tight right now, but they've made their way back up to 13th place, Matt.
Marty, 62 laps to go on Pablo Montoya was running 4th, but they have progressively gotten worse and worse. The car just way too tight. His last week, he scored a top 10 finish. It was his first since Darlington. It looked like things were back on a roll, but they've been fighting an ill-handling car, Marty, much of this race.
Last we saw Matt Kenseth, who was sitting on pit road with the car steaming out some water. No mention of the water since then. They did pull a piece of tape off the front grille, and as chassis-wise, the car has been very loose for Kenseth for most of the day since that first run, Matt.
Marty, from the drop of the green flag, our championship point leader, Kevin Harvick, has been fighting a tight race car. They have made a number of adjustments every single stop. Just can't quite hit on it. It's like just being on a razor blade. The car now just sliding loose, but also pushing tight. Air pressure, Ralph, and track bar adjustment didn't help the last stop.
David Rudiman in car 00 is running in 17th place right now. I talked to him earlier today. He wasn't feeling too good about his fuel mileage. And to make matters worse, that car has been running pretty loose all afternoon. He's been fighting to try to find the balance on that car as well. Now, earlier in the week, car number 47, Marcos Ambrose, who's running in 18th, had the opportunity to drive a sprint car at Fremont, Ohio with his crew chief, Frankie Kurz, a former 4-time sprint car champion with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. His car right now, maybe not as good as that sprint car was. Pretty loose in, tight in the center, and it's hitting too hard on the right front, Phil.
Ralph, A.J. Allmendinger is really complaining about his car. He said it's so horrible that I'm just about to bust my tail out here. He's trying to get his first top 15 finish here at Michigan in his 6th start. The one car of Jamie McMurray said this is probably the best the car has ever been. He is finally now able to pick up some places on the racetrack. He's not been able to pass anybody. He's been going the wrong direction. But Larry, now he's going forward.
Well, I'm going to go forward, too, and I'm going to go to a car that's running up in the 6th position right now, Tony Stewart in his 14 car. He started back in the 15th position, and if you remember, his crew chief, Darian Grubb, on that first caution at lap 18 elected to go with 2 tires. But, guys, this car has stayed up in the top 10 all day long. You go back to Pocono, he finished third. To Dover a few weeks ago, he finished ninth. I talked to Darian Grubb, his crew chief, and the big thing they've been having to work on over the last couple of months since we went to that rear spoiler is their car has not been very good in traffic. They feel like they have zeroed in some things. Maybe Smoke is about to start that summer stretch of good runs that he normally does every single year.
33 of Tony Stewart's 37 career wins have come from June on. And as you saw while Larry was talking, the solid effort for Tony Stewart today has him inside the top 12 in points. Mark Martin has dropped from 11th to 13th. Denny Hamlin is the race leader.
You're watching NASCAR on TNT.
And make sure you race out to see our new movie, Grown Ups. Did you really just say that? Yeah, because it's funny.
No, it wasn't.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say that we'll see him in the winner's circle on June 25th.
Okay, you know, I'm going to put him into the wall.
Let's take an inside look at what's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint and Evo 4G, America's first 4G phone. Biggest mover today, Clint Boyer in a backup car, started at the rear of the field, plus 31 for him today. And our fastest speed of the race, 186 miles per hour, Kurt Busch, the pole sitter, who is currently third on track. For more NASCAR stats and live in-car audio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the new Evo, only from Sprint, at sprint.com/speed. 172 of 200 laps are complete. Denny Hamlin continues to lead his advantage 9.4 seconds over second place Casey Kane. Drivers starting to come in under green. So what is the strategy from here, Larry?
Yeah, Adam, we're within about 6 to 10 laps of what will have to be scheduled green flag stops, which will easily get these guys to the end of the race. I think you look at this 11 car, Denny Hamlin, it's a no-brainer for him with a 9-second lead. You kind of wait till everybody cycles through their green flag stops. You come in, you get 4 tires, you make sure it's full of fuel, just like this one car at McMurray right now. But the question as I look back in the field is maybe some of these guys are going to try to come to pit road early, Matt Yoakum, like Kevin Harvick's doing right now.
Absolutely, Larry. Matt Harvick, one of those cars pitting early, knowing the cycle is going to open up here in about 5 to 7 laps. Harvick's car, we've documented, it's just been mean tight most of the day, just not able to get it free. Gil Martin said he was concerned about that first run, not getting up into the top 12 or so to get good track position. They've been fighting it. Air pressure change once again on the 29 this stop, Ralph.
Here comes the 31 to Jeff Burton in to make his stop. This should be his last stop of the day as well. Crew going to work on the right side. A little bit of a chassis adjustment to the left rear of the car. He's going to take 4 times of fuel, Marty.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming to a stop in the stall. Everybody kind of, their hand is forced now. They have to pit early because take early tires, you can make up some time. Junior said the car actually not bad, a little too loose. That's it, Matt.
And while Pablo Montoya, the car too tight, just not able to get in the gas when he wants to because it just shoves the nose. Air pressure change on the 42 of Montoya.
Matt Kenseth says his car's a little too loose. They were one to come earlier than everybody else. They were surprised when they saw everybody else come down pit road. Matt said, don't worry about the water temperature. That's not our problem. We need to fix the chassis. They did that with air pressure and wedge for Kenseth.
You know, a lot of guys just made tire pressure adjustments on those pit stops. I mean, I think the cars are close, but I didn't see too many wedge adjustments or track bar adjustments there.
But it's almost one of those things at this point in the race, unless they get a caution to get back in the race, they don't want to take themselves out of a race. It seems like. Ralph?
Jeff Gordon is in, making his pit stop. Crew going to work on the right side of his car. He's trying to avenge the fact that he had 2 second-place finishes last year, trying to get a win. 4 tires fuel, no chassis adjustments, Bill.
Ralph, Greg Biffle's still a little bit too loose. They're going to go down 1 round on the track bar, take a little bit of air out of the left side tires. They're talking about the weather changing. Car getting a little bit looser, Matt.
A wedge adjustment failed to work this 2 car a little bit better on exit. That's where he felt his biggest hindrance was to the 11 of Denny Hamlin. And Denny Hamlin, what a run he has had after that last pit stop. He had a 4-second lead. He more than doubled that, yarding the competition. You can see Scott Wood has already made the chassis adjustment for Hamlin. They know they've got half of a normal run to go here to the finish, and he's away.
Casey Kane becomes the race leader with Denny Hamlin making his pit stop. But Kane will also have to come to pit road. He has not been there since lap 139. In fact, here he comes right now, Ralph.
He's been loose in and in the center. They're going to take a half lap out of the left to rear, make an air pressure adjustment with that car, put a little bit of the wedge back in on this thing, and he should be good to go. Again, you can see the fluid spewing out of that right corner. That pressure of that engine has been so tough with that temperature all day. Now let's see if they can get the 9 to the finish.
The stop for Kane coming at lap 178. Kane crossing the start-finish line on pit road. Denny Hamlin doing so on the track. So the stops have cycled through, and it's Hamlin back out in front of the field, and he's got a huge lead.
Yeah, this is when it's the most fun to drive a race car, is when you have a car like that 11. I mean, you just go wherever you want, you do whatever you want. The car is handling perfectly. I mean, this is really a race car driver's dream.
Yeah, and you know, he had a great car last week. He was one of the few guys that could roll into turn 3 on the tacky patch on the way around the corner, and then turn left and drive off the corner up under somebody. He's able to make more time, or the best time getting in the corner, and transfer that to off the corner.
When they come across the start-finish line this time, we will be able to tell you exactly what happened on that cycle of pit stops in regard to time gained or lost. Debris on the track. We are under caution for the 4th time today here at Michigan International Speedway. What was a near 10-second lead for Denny Hamlin has completely collapsed. First car 1 lap down. Elliott Sadler, he will get the free pass. There will be 22 cars on the lead lap. And now the question for Denny Hamlin and crew chief Mike Ford, how do you handle strategy?
You're kind of a sitting duck when you're the leader, but I don't believe I'd come in. You only got four laps on the tires. You got a full tank of fuel. I'd stay out.
And he's only run 4 laps on these tires. And you know, Larry's the one that should be answering this question, because you just heard Mike Ford say stay out. But for me as a driver, I'm like, okay, what are they going to gain? They're going to lose track position in 4 tires. I got clean air and 4 lap older tires. I'm staying.
Now some guys are obviously going to come down and get fresh tires.
Some of them that obviously don't have a shot at winning the race at this point in time. They may want to put themselves, they think that'll put themselves in a position to win.
Hey, guys, this is one of the reasons I think Mike Ford stretched it as far as he possibly could. But it looks like to me, those guys back there in the back, why not? Come on to pit road, get 4 tires, maybe one last shot at an adjustment.
Jeff Burton running 9th, the first of those to come down pit road, and he's there now. 2 tires only for Burton. Dale Earnhardt Jr. also coming to the pit lane for service here. 17 laps to go.
It looks like they're going 4 on the 88, 4 on the 48.
You know, the one thing you did notice about those pit stops, just visually watching them, is they were tires only. So if they made any adjustments, they were pressure adjustments. They didn't make a major swing at them with a wedge adjustment or a track bar or a spring rubber or anything like that. They appeared to be from up here. Oh, he's been in the sport. He got into the wall. This is a strange deal with this new car. If you look at that spoiler coming at you, that spoiler sticks out 2 or 3 inches, it looks like, visually, off the right side. He got into the wall. If we remember when he got into the wall earlier and we showed the footage of it, obviously it's peeled that corner back, and that thing couldn't do anything but get looser from that point, and the reason he got in the wall is because he was loose to begin with. So that was a double. That was a double whammy for him.
He looks like he's been fighting loose most of the day. I mean, it just seems like he's been up there banging off the wall a lot.
And you see the guy under the car, he's taping up the fuel, the crush panels. Larry was talking about front crush panels earlier. He's taping up these crush panels because these crush panels are important to downforce. The under air flow and the under body flow, it's important to keep that. Look at that bumper, how much that bumper flexed. That's not good. That's not good for airflow. It's okay, you know, it's not detrimental to the car, but from some standpoints. But from the aero side, airflow under the car, it's not good.
The top 9 cars in the running order stayed on track here under caution, including our leader, who today is Captain Clutch. And we now reveal the Captain Clutch moment of the race, presented by Captain Morgan. Denny Hamlin making a green flag stop at lap 91. He had a few issues.
Yeah, you can see right here, he gets off good, and then all of a sudden, the car just stalls. And you'll see him wiggle it a little bit because he's got no fuel pressure, so he's trying to get the fuel back going. And then it finally kicked in. Then he finally got the air out of the line. Then he came back. Once he got running again, he tracked down Kurt Busch and passed him for the lead, and that was it.
Denny Hamlin is Captain Clutch. Fans, please remember to drink responsibly. Captain's orders. Denny Hamlin staying out, and really he and crew chief Mike Ford never wavered on their strategy. Casey Kane runs second. Kurt Busch is third. Those 3 race cars have been the dominant ones here this afternoon. And we showed you a number of teams coming down pit road here, so time now to get Larry's picks for the AT&T fastest pit crew of the race. Larry, what are you looking at?
Well, Adam, it's actually been kind of tough because we've had some good solid pit stops today, and as you guys talked about earlier, not a lot of mistakes, but how can we not include that number 11 FedEx team of Denny Hamlin, started 7th. I like that the fact that this last round of green flag pit stops, they left him out there fairly late to where if the caution did come as it did, they wouldn't have a lot of laps on their tires. How about Tony Stewart and that 14 car? Started back in 15th, but back again on lap 18 on that first caution. Darian Grubb put 2 tires on, kept him right in the top 10. And then you look at Clint Boyer and that group from the 33 team of Richard Childress Racing, started dead last with a car that basically had no laps this weekend. First lap was when they dropped the green flag. They had to come back to pit road for some repairs early, and he's still sitting there in the top 10.
Fans, your vote counts each week. Be sure to text the car number to 2258 for the pit crew you think is the fastest and most valuable. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year Award, brought to you by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. Greg Biffle, a 2-time winner here at Michigan. What's he saying, Phil?
They had a real discussion between he and Greg Irwin, his crew chief. Greg wanted to come in. Greg Irwin wanted him to come in because he said, I think they're going to stop from about 10th on back like usual. He said, they're going to line up behind you 2 rows with double file with full fresh tires. And Greg Biffle said, when everybody's staying on the racetrack, I think I can hold them off out here, Matt.
Phil, knowing how the initial restart here could really decide this race, Kurt Busch told his spotter, Chris Osborne, you have got to get me to the outside off turn 2 as quickly as possible. He'll have the 24 Gordon restarting on the outside as Busch will be on the inside, row 2.
Be fun to watch the restart, Matt. Aerial coverage today provided by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. New Fuel Max tires help you have a winning fuel strategy. So today's race has only produced 4 cautions, but the one that came out with 17 to go may very well help decide the race. The field that was separated by 10+ seconds now tightened up, and we get set for a restart with 14 to go. The front row, Hamlin and Kane. Hamlin, the race leader, as Matt pointed out, selects the outside lane. Kurt Busch, Jeff Gordon, Greg Biffle, and Tony Stewart in the top 6. All those drivers have won at Michigan except for Hamlin.
You know, and all the restarts always are important, but this one is going to be pretty important because you've got to go right now. You've got to get a good, clean restart and not get hung up around a lot of other cars. You've got to get some free air.
I'm going to tell you, that 11 got a great restart right there to clear himself to get to that first corner. And I think that's one of the first restarts we've seen him not go in there, or I've seen a restart where guys haven't gone in too wide the first 2.
Top 9 cars on track at the restart did not pit. Jeff Burton restarted in the 10th position. He was the first of those cars on the lead lap to make a pit stop. Hamlin with a great restart. Kane behind him in 2nd, and Kurt Busch able to get around Jeff Gordon for 3rd.
And Kurt Busch needed to go. You saw him there with the 24, and I think he realized if he didn't clear that 24 really quick, he was going to lose touch with the leaders.
Yeah, and the best 3 cars all day long have been the 11, the 9, and the 2. They're 1, 2, 3 right here. These other guys have fought, and they've come up there and they've had their shot at it, but they've not been able to maintain. This is going to be interesting with just 13 to go. to see what these guys do, but I don't think anybody's got anything for the 11.
Jimmy Johnson took 4 tires on that last pit stop. He is on the move, working to the inside of Greg Biffle. That's the battle for 6th.
See, the problem is even with new tires, he's running side by side with these guys. And look at Hamlin. He's already gone.
Yeah, Hamlin's a quarter straightaway ahead in 2 or 3 laps. You know what I mean? So he's got to break through. He's got to pass 4 or 5 cars, then run Hamlin down. You see Junior get a great draft right there. Same type draft we talked earlier. With these 4 tires and these guys with fresh tires, they're going to run 3 and 4 wide, and they're going to create some opportunities for some wild racing right here.
Well, and also they're going to improve their position on what they were running. If they wouldn't have gotten 4 tires, they wouldn't be picking up 3 or 4 spots compared to where they were running before the caution.
Yeah, this is not a green-white checker, but these guys are addressing it that way when you come in and put 4 tires on.
Jeff Burton has been solidly in the top 10 throughout the afternoon. We mentioned he also came down pit road. He scored in the 8th position. Greg Biffle right behind him on track, but he did not pit under that caution. The lead for Denny Hamlin, 0.2 of a second last time around. Tony Stewart's done a nice job today. He's in 5th.
Yeah, and Stewart's been up there all day long. I mean, he's been, it's not like it was he backed into this deal. I mean, you know, these guys have been solid all day. They've made a lot of improvements on their car. And Tony's been there. He hasn't had a good enough car to run up front and lead this thing, but he's a solid top 5 car.
And perhaps Denny Hamlin not showing his hand. He just ran his fastest lap of the race.
Well, so did Casey Kane, probably.
0.3 of a second is lead in front of Kane.
And you know, we've had a couple of restarts today and a couple opportunities for Kane to close the gap and run up on the 2 cars, to run up on different cars. And as he closes up and he closed that gap, he could get right to him, but as soon as he got to him, he couldn't get around him.
Well, like you said earlier, it's one thing when you've got your car working and it works where you're looking for a place where the car works. That's great, but if you got to go somewhere else to pass a car, then it makes it really difficult.
The one interesting part about these 2 guys is, you know, the 11 car has continued to hammer the middle and the bottom of the racetrack. I mean, his car works so well. He gets down there and gets on the bottom of the racetrack. Here he is in the middle, and you see Kane a full car length or more higher than he is, a car width or more higher. And the 11 car is running the groove that they always used to run here. That back in the 60s, back in the 70s, back in the 80s, they always ran the same groove the 11 is.
And you know who that reminds me of is when Yates was so strong here with those cars, because Yates, their cars would run on the bottom and had such good power they could pull up off the corners, and they really were fast here at one time.
As a driver here, if you're in the lead like Denny Hamlin is, how much information do you want from your spotter in regard to the line that Kane is running behind you?
Yeah, you don't care at this point in time. I think earlier in the race you did care. Right now with 8 to go, I think if Kane was closing 2/10 a lap or 3/10 a lap, then what Denny would be asking is, where's he beating me at? Where's he closing? I'll try that with that. We've seen Jimmy Johnson do it. We've seen Jeff Gordon do it. You see all the great drivers ask for information, but right now his barometer, or the measure that he's using, is every time he gets on a straightaway, he checks the mirror. And if that car's the same, he knows he's safe.
Denny Hamlin saying to the spoiler, where have you been all of my life? He will have won for the 5th time since the spoiler replaced the wing here today if he can hang on 7 laps from doing so.
But, you know, I think a lot of people, a lot of the motorsports press, the writers, they talked about it. Who's going to be the team that latches onto the spoiler first? Who's going to be the team that comes out of the box the strongest? And I felt like the Childress organization came out really strong, but the Gibbs organization came out a step above everybody else. And the 48 and the 24 and the Hendrick organization, they've kind of maintained. They're not any worse than what they were, I don't think, but they're not dominating.
We've seen throughout the afternoon how good Denny Hamlin is on a long run. That has been his key to success, because we've been under green quite a bit today. With 6 laps to go, he's now stretched his lead out to better than 0.6 of a second. And his young teammate Joey Logano enjoying a nice day. He is 9th. A moment ago we saw that extended pit stop for Kyle Busch, a driver who started at the tail end of the field, had driven his way into the top 10, now being scored 20th.
Yeah, and you know, with Kyle Petty here touched on it earlier, he had to come from the back, and it just makes it for a long, frustrating day to come up through the back. And had some issues with the chassis. You're in traffic a lot, got loose, got in the wall, and it really kind of ruined a good day for Kyle.
On board with Tony Stewart, you saw Jimmy Johnson, who took 4 tires under caution a few moments ago, gaining ground but unable to make a pass. And I think what we're seeing here is things have stabilized. You have to really be better than somebody if you're going to make a pass, because the aerodynamics are so big. Dale Earnhardt Jr. doing whatever he can to make his way into the chase. 14th in the standings as they run now. That's up 2 spots from where he entered this race.
And these are the kind of runs that Junior's got to put together consistently if he's going to have any kind of shot at making the chase.
And now Jeff Burton able to open the door and go to the inside of Junior. A pair of Chevrolets battling for the 7th position on track. They're more than 6 seconds behind the race leader, Denny Hamlin.
Man, this is where you're digging too. You don't want to give up any positions at this part of the race, and you are driving hard right now to just not give anything up with 4 laps to go.
And you know, at the same time, you see Jeff get a run up off the corner and then have to pull in back behind him to catch a little draft. These guys are looking in their rearview mirror at that 20 car coming too, because the more they run side by side, that 20 car of Logano, who's running in pretty decent air right now in front of him, he's going to run these guys down. Jeff can get that run in the middle. He can get that roll in the center. But that 88 just powers up off the corner. You see, the 88 adjusts his line.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to say, okay, if I can mess him up on the air, I'm going to adjust my line. That's a pretty good move.
When you look at the last 6 races for Dale Earnhardt Jr., it's not been good. Today would be his best finish in that span. 13th at Talladega is where he was prior to that.
Yeah, Jeff just can't get enough up off that corner, but he's real smart because he pulls in right behind, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
He gets back in the draft so the guys behind him won't catch him. If they ran side by side down the straightaway, the 20 would be on top of him in a lap.
Denny Hamlin just about midway down the back straightaway, a lap and a half from getting his 2nd victory in a row. He was dominant and getting the checkers last week at Pocono.
And we're watching this race because this is the best race. You know, I mean, Denny has really checked out on everybody. The first 5, 6, 7 cars, they're just in line. You see how far he's pulled away from the 9 car and how far the 9 car's pulled away from the 2, and so on. I mean, these guys are spaced just about the same.
White flag for Denny Hamlin. 1 lap to go to getting the win here today at Michigan.
You know, 2 or 3 races ago, Denny in Victory Lane, or on the radio when the race was over with, he said, all we do is win. That's what we do. And I'm going to tell you what, since that time, he's backed it up week in and week out. All they do is win.
It was a tough start to 2010 for Denny Hamlin. A win at Martinsville, a knee surgery, and the domination has kicked in. In the last 10 races, no one has been more dominant than Denny Hamlin. And the domination continues today. Win number 5 for Denny Hamlin.
He's been saying that a lot on the radio.
He's been saying that a lot on the radio. That's good.
Way to go. 2 miles, 2.5, it doesn't matter.
And you see for 7th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. did finish in front of Jeff Burton.
And Biffle clipped Logano on the last lap for 9th place. Good run from Biffle.
Allmendinger with another solid run here today at Michigan.
Well, the Fords got close today, just 1 off.
But you know, that's a couple of, looking at the rundown, there's a couple of Fords in the top 10, and back to Kansas, there's 4 or 5 Fords in the top 15. That's pretty impressive for him, the way they've run this year.
Joe Gibbs Racing, 7 victories in the last 10 races. The man who will celebrate today, Denny Hamlin. More from Michigan after a break. You're watching NASCAR on TNT. The Dominator, Denny Hamlin, in victory lane again. He led 4 times today for a total of 123 laps. More importantly, the final 22 circuits had him out front, and this afternoon he's celebrating for the first time in his career at Michigan International Speedway. Matt Yoakum in victory lane.
What a dominating day, what a dominating season, what a statement that sends as far as versatility. This team winning everywhere from a half-mile, 2.5, to even a 2-mile here today.
Yeah, it's just can't thank the fans enough. You know, it's the biggest crowd I've seen here in a long time. Just thank everyone from Michigan International for upgrading the pit areas for us, and it's just been a great year so far. I mean, it's just, you know, it's so easy to drive cars like this, and they make me look good. But I can tell you, it's a work of guys like Mike Ford and the entire 11 team. But can't thank him enough. Sprint, FedEx, and all their employees, the whole 11 team, everyone, JGR. Gillette, Wiley X, just Coca-Cola, everyone who helped support this deal and put it together, and you know, we're going to keep making a run at them.
The only hiccup today really was cutting it almost a little too short on fuel. Were you concerned at all, though, about that final restart, because anything can happen late in the going, as we've seen this year?
Anything can happen. I knew a caution was coming, so I might as well just back off and save my tires. I knew that debris caution was coming, but you know, we got to do what's right for the fans, and you know, they need to see a great race at the end, and it's just the best car won. That's all you can ask for.
Denny Hamlin, 5th win in 2010, his first here at Michigan.
And Matt, it's his 13th career win. You remember last week at Pocono, he busted up the nose when he was doing burnouts. All clean pulling into victory lane today for Denny Hamlin at Michigan. More to come after a break.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing from Michigan, presented by Captain Morgan on TNT, is brought to you by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. By the all-new 2011 Super Duty, built for tough. By Aflac, we've got you under our wing. And by Coca-Cola Zero, real Coke taste and 0 calories.
Denny Hamlin, the man today at Michigan. He takes Joe Gibbs to victory lane for the 84th time in his career as an owner. And now we look back at today's unofficial results. Casey Kane, Kurt Busch, the other two drivers that dominated this race, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 7th today, Wally.
Yeah, like I said, good run for those guys. That's the track that they need to be on. Good run for Biffle. Carl Edwards rounds out the top 12.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of talk about the Ford teams coming in here. I think they had a really respectable showing today.
Too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a place like this is a tough place to get a handle on the racetrack and the engine. Kansas finished 14th. You go down the list. Mark, who won on fuel mileage, but I mean, Mark was just never in the race. Ambrose comes back from that spin early.
McMurray started out front today. Good qualifying run, but he finished in the 24th position.
A couple of those guys like Boyer and the 29 car, their finishes are not indicative. I think just the last 10 or 15 laps, they just couldn't get track position like they needed.
Casey Mears spent time in the garage feuding with his teammate. 36th is where the 83 car ended up today. Here are those drivers that did not finish the race. Ralph with Casey Kane.
Casey, a lot of water spewing out of this car throughout the race. Was it as much of an issue as it looked like?
No, it wasn't a big deal. We just got a little bit hot, got some debris on the front, but the team did a nice job today. The whole Budweiser Ford team, they really did a nice job. I was happy with everything. Denny was a little bit better than us at the end, you know, but we had a good battle throughout the race. I battled with Jimmy and Kurt, and it was pretty exciting. So I was happy. Kenny Francis did a nice job. It's nice to get a good finish. We've had some ups and downs throughout this season, so it's nice to get a good solid finish.
Yeah, you let me in on the conversation you had with your crew. You had to be thrilled with their performance today.
I was happy with them. They, you know, all the pit stops, if we lost any, it was just a little bit, you know, 3-4 spots, and that's much better than the past 2 months. So I was really happy with them. They did a nice job, and we still have a lot to work on, to keep working hard on, and I do, and the team does, and we're going to keep doing that if we want to try to win a race.
Now it's on to Infineon Raceway, a place where Casey Kane has won before.
Kurt Busch, a solid run all day long, ended up with a 3rd place finish.
Yeah, it was a great effort by our Miller Lite Dodge team. I mean, we had a strong car early on, and it just seemed like we lost a little bit of speed as the race went on. Just a little bit of lack of grip, track rubbering in, and we made good adjustments, had solid pit stops. You know, that's what this game's all about. This is Cup. This isn't any other racing in the world where if you're off a little bit, people are going to go by you. So hats off to my guys, especially the guys back at the shop building these great cars. We keep advancing every time we bring a car to the racetrack, as well as the engine shop. Just a good day here in Michigan to qualify on pole, lead a lot of laps, and finish 3rd. It's a solid day.
That's how you make a chase.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll keep digging. It's that Vortex bottle on the side of that Dodge.
All right. Thanks, Kurt.
What a solid and impressive day for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Comes home 7th place. And how hard were you racing Jeff Burton there at the end for 7th, my man?
Hard enough to stay in front of him. He had a better car right there, and you know, I'd been running the bottom, but he was coming, so I felt like I could hold my own on the bottom in 1 and 2 and run around the middle of 3 and 4, and my momentum would keep me ahead of him, and it worked.
Listening to you on the radio today, it sounded like you had fun. You enjoyed this race today. What was different with the car today?
I enjoyed the car all day. Lance and the AMP Industry NASCAR team did a good job all weekend, really. But we were happy in race trim. We just didn't have any speed in qualifying, so it was fun to drive. Matt, Kansas was better. There was a bunch of cars. Obviously, everybody in front of us was better, but we felt like we had a top 10 car, and we were able to show it today. That caution come out and got me worried what the hell is going to happen here. So, but we were on the good end of it for a change. I just want to thank all my sponsors and the team and everybody back at the shop. The engines are great, and the cars are bulletproof, and this is the kind of runs we want to have. So this equipment can do it. The guys taking it to the racetrack, you just got to get it right, and we did pretty good today.
A fun day is a good day for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Comes home 7th.
Tony Stewart, I talked to you after last week's race at Pocono, and you weren't that happy with a top 5 finish. This looks like a little better top 5 finish. What do you think?
Yeah, we drove our way up there today, so really proud of Darian and everybody on the Office Depot Old Spice team. They did a great job this week. I feel like we're starting to gain on it. So, 2 good runs in a row with 2 top 5s in a row. That's exactly what this team needs right now.
You come in here 1 point out of the top 12, and you keep putting top 5s together, you're going to be up in that top 12.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to keep plugging away and doing what we do. I mean, I'm not as panicked about the top 12 right now as I think some of the other guys that are close to that bubble. So we just got to keep going out, and if we keep rifling off top 5s like this, we won't have to worry about it. We'll be there.
All right, good job, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Another top 5 for Tony Stewart.
And Phil, Tony Stewart was in the top 5 at Bristol, hadn't been there since last week, and now he's put together 2 in a row, and it pays dividends in the points. Stewart into the top 12. He was not entering the week, as Phil pointed out, and Harvick continues to lead. Greg Biffle also gained some ground. And now you look at those outside the top 12. Clint Boyer has dropped out, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. moves up 2 positions to 14th.
But that I'm from 11th to about 16th or 17th. That's still tight. That's a one-race swing right there. You know what I mean? And that's why these guys got to grind these finishes out, just like Junior was talking. We just got to do this. We got to grind this out.
Next Sunday, NASCAR on TNT heads to California. Coverage begins at 2 p.m. Eastern with Countdown to Green. That's followed by the Toyota Save Mart 350 from Sonoma. That's next Sunday on TNT. Coming up next on TNT, All Worked Up. And now you can head to NASCAR.com for the NASCAR on TNT post-race show. Interviews, analysis, and more. Live now on NASCAR.com. Denny Hamlin, the dominating race car here today. He gets his 5th win of the season. For Wally Dallenbach and Kyle Petty, I'm Adam Alexander. So long from the Irish Hills of Michigan.